talking to now, Denell or Florida? Because you guys sound the same.
Just Florida.
Okay.
It wasn't me, honestly. Good. Just the what's going
You think Florida and Denell sound the same?
No. You talk about it.
I mean, I just don't understand why you would even replace birthright citizenship with. I've never heard a really compelling idea what it would be replaced with.
Well, hang on, we got a Supreme Court decision. It's not right, but it's Supreme Court rules on banning transgender athletes from women's sports. Let's see here what the vote. Yeah, this is something, we've needed this for a long time. This is going to be a huge win for transgender people, I think, because this was the dumbest fucking thing transgender people have ever synthesized, was this idea that they should compete in sports with their opposite sex. So I think the fact that they are not going to be able to will help to move the vitriol and anger and stupidity away from trans people. So
Florida might become the movement's biggest cultural fear.
and I sure hope not. But yeah, on the New York Times it doesn't say, it literally says nothing. It shows the headline and it doesn't have any words. Okay, thanks. I'm sure we'll get them. They must have literally just running down from the courthouse steps. I remember that when Obergefell stayed, I was watching live on the TV, and it was so funny that it was like, because they're not released online, it was like just a bunch of news reporters were like running down the steps holding pieces of paper and reading it as fast as they could. The good old days. I'm gonna guess this one's probably gonna be 6-3. We'll see.
You hear me? I have the opinion.
Oh yeah, what was that?
Kavanaugh, Roberts, Alito, Gorsuch, and Barrett all are on the majority.
The 5-4?
Yeah.
That is
Shocking. I can't Sotomayor, Kagan, Jackson, and Jackson. Wait, do we have two Jacksons? No, Kagan and Jackson. It was 6-3. Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson.
yeah, that makes more sense.
So it says Title IX transformed the American sports and American life. Enacted in 1972, the landmark law promoted equal opportunity for female student athletes and has facilitated the extraordinary growth of women's and girls' sports over the past 50 years. To provide equal opportunity for female athletes, schools do not merely maintain, for example, one soccer team, one basketball team, one ice hockey team, etc. That are open to both female and males. That approach would deny equal opportunity to female athletes because, as all agree, females and males have inherent physical differences relevant to athletic performance. Those physical differences between men and women, end quote, are, quote, enduring, end quote. And they cite United States versus Virginia. The differences include, among other things, height, weight, speed, strength, endurance, yada yada. Therefore, contests forcing female athletes to compete against males creates safety risks, yada yada yada. To ensure equal opportunity for female athletes, Title IX does require that schools provide all the same amenities to the women's team as they do the men's teams. In recent years, some biological males who identify as female, like how he says in recent years, some biological males who identify as international concerns about safety and competitive fairness for female athletes, as well as related ones about preserving equal opportunity for women in girls' sports. For those reasons, 27 states, as well as the ICE, including the International Olympic Committee, the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee, and the NCAA, have banned all biological males from competing in women's and girls' sports. These cases concern two of those state laws, from West Virginia and Idaho. The question before the court is, under Title IX and the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, may schools maintain women's and girls' sports for biological females? In other words, sports was badly skewed. In 1971 to 1972, only about 300,000 high school girls played sports. Meanwhile, about 3.6 million high school boys played sports. The situation was similarly in college. The low female participation rate was the byproduct of an overt sex discrimination, as well as mistaking and stereotyping North American women and girls. Men and boys usually received more encouragement and more opportunities to play sports than women and girls. And male sports teams typically received more funding and resources than females. As of 1972, for example, women's sports repeatedly accounted for only 2% of annual college athletics in life's time. Participation in sports has enabled countless American girls to be on a team to take part in and those lessons and experiences in sports have been contributed life. Over the past several years, biological males have identified as female and soccer players in women's sports. Some have been taken as a fear, puberty, cross-sex hormones, and other drugs such as those that suppress testosterone or increase estrogen, sometimes called as hormone therapy. For each reference, we will refer to puberty blockers and hormones. Those biological males contend that by taking puberty blockers and hormones, identify as female, have taken hormones. More recently, the IOC similarly limited the participation of men in women's sports. Most relevant for present purposes, in the past 6 years, 27 states have enacted laws that maintain women's and girls' sports for biological females. These cases concern two of those states. West Virginia has long authorized 6 separated school sports teams. Their selection for such teams is based upon competitive skill. In 2021, West Virginia legislature passed a government justice signed the Save Women's Sports Act. Save Women's Sports Act prohibits male students from playing feeding teams. The law specifies that sex is determined by biology. The legislature expressly found that prohibiting biological male participation in female sports is necessary to promote equal athletic opportunities. BPJ is biological male who identifies as female. In third grade, BPJ socially transitioned and adopted a new name. Soon thereafter, BPJ...
Some Croatian army vet from hell.
In the 6th grade, BPJ also began taking hormones. Shortly after passage of the West Virginia law, as BPJ was entering 6th grade, his middle school principal informed BPJ's mother that BPJ could not participate on the girls' cross country and track and field teams. BPJ is now in high school, where the same policies apply. BPJ sued West Virginia officials and agencies for alleged violations of Title IX of the Equal Protection Clause. On appeal, the court reversed yada yada during ongoing litigation. BPJ competed on teams. Recently, BPJ won West Virginia Class AAA High School State Championship in girls shot put and finished fourth. Surpassed another little signed Fearless Women's Sports Act. take hormones. Cox attends Boise State University and has competed for the women's club soccer team. Cox has also tried out for the women's Division I track and cross-country teams. Shortly after Idaho passed this law, Cox sued Idaho officials and agencies alleging violation of the Equal Protection Clause. The U.S. District Court for the District of Idaho granted a preliminary injunction barring enforcement of the Fairness in Women's Sports Act. We first addressed the Title IX issue, which is raised only by BPJ in the West Virginia case. BPJ argues that the state, we can skip that, we were passed by Congress and signed by Nixon in 1972, Title IX provides, quote, no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. As originally enacted in Title IX, did not explicitly address sports. 2 years after Title IX became law, Congress passed and President Ford signed what is known as the Javits Amendment. The Javits Amendment directed the then Department of Health, Education, and Welfare to promote issues, quote, regulations implementing the provisions of, end quote, Title IX with respect to, quote, the prohibition of sex discrimination, end quote. And then he cites the U.S. Code statute. The amendment further specified that the regulations shall include, with respect to athletic activities, reasonable provisions considering the nature of particular sports. In 1975, pursuant to that statutory directive, HEW promulgated comprehensive regulations to prevent sex discrimination. Most critically, the regulations required that schools provide equal athletic opportunity for members of both sexes and authorized separate teams for members of each sex, where selective for such teams is based on competition, skill, or the activity involved is a contact sport. And then it provides U.S. code. The regulations, that's not U.S. code, it's like internal department law. The regulations define contact sports as boxing, wrestling, rugby, ice hockey, football, basketball, and other sports, blah, blah, blah. Those regulations took effect on July 21st, 1975. They're in place today. The Title IX was issued contemporaneously with the statute and has remained consistent over time. It is especially useful in determining the statute's meaning. It cites right enterprises versus section 3, section 3. Sports for biological females. The answer is yes. Title IX prohibits discrimination on the basis of sex. Regulations expressly permit schools to maintain separate teams for members of each sex. Where they say sex is an immutable characteristic. Interesting. In addition, Title regulations allowed separate sports teams precisely because of the biological differences between sexes. Without a gender-based classification, contact sports teams. Even in recent years, 27 states, the NCAA, and the USC have often received distinctiveness of competition of competitive sports, and the safety and competitive fairness achieves the areas where females are forced to compete against may participate, blah, blah, blah. Oh, it's a debated policy question, but the legal question for Title IX purposes is whether West Virginia may limit women's and girls' sports teams to biological females. As a matter of text and history, West Virginia may do so. BPJ advances two other Title IX related arguments that were brief mention. First, BPJ contends that the school's policy violates Title IX because the policy effectively excludes BPJ from any competitive sports teams at the school. BPJ has taken puberty blockers accordingly to make the BPJ no longer be strong or fast enough to compete successfully against boys. Moreover, BPJ might not want to compete against boys. Either way, it is an unhappy occasion whenever a student who wants to play sports cannot do so. And we appreciate the desire of every student athletes are understandably disappointed and upset when they do not make a team or otherwise cannot participate. The Title IX regulations guarantee equal athletic opportunity. The regulations cannot and do not guarantee every student a spot on a team's roster. Second, BPJ cites Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of '64 and Bostock as support for interpreting Title IX to require that schools allow biological males on female teams. Title VII prohibits employment discrimination because of sex, and Bostock held that the prohibition forbids firing an employee for being gay or transgender. Bostock versus Lee County, just like BPJ contends that Title IX similarly bars West Virginia's laws because the law excludes BPJ from sports on the basis of gender identity. We disagree. Title VII concerns employment, whereas Title IX, as relevant here, focuses on sports. The two factual contexts are vastly different, and the two statutes are also vastly different. Jackson v. Birmingham Board of Education. In the workplace, Title VII generally requires that men and women be treated without regard to their sex. In sports contexts, by contrast, Title IX authorizes single sports teams, whereas Title IX permits single teams and questionable schools and sports to biological females. Constitutional challenges to the West Virginia and Idaho laws under the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. BPJ and Wilcox raised the equal protection the states violated the Equal Protection Clause by maintaining female sports teams for biological females. Again, we respectfully disagree. Once again, plaintiffs agree with the states that consistent with the Equal Protection Clause, the states may prohibit most biological males from women's and girls' sports teams.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately,
Good luck.
this was such an obvious.
Look, and you won't even make the
you know,
battle.
I just, if anything, I think the dissent would maybe be more interesting, but
Yeah, I think they got it.
You won't even make the battle.
It sounds like all of their logic and rationale is pretty on point, too.
yeah, this was like the dumbest issue ever. Like, this was one of those things that I felt like I've always felt like is like a litmus test, you know, like how much.
Because you're not a man! I mean, you are a man. Well, you just have as a woman.
If someone is like, oh yeah, I think that transgender should compete in women's sports, it's like, oh, okay, so you're like indoctrinated, like you're not a rational agent.
You're indoctrinated. You're a man.
This doesn't make sense.
You're not a woman.
Alright, I'm gonna post
You're not a woman. You're a man.
You guys are gonna have to go to page number 42, and you get to read the dissent because I'm done fucking reading.
No one's reading to this now. I swear to God, if you guys put me through this, I will fucking throw myself.
I do want to hear the dissent, but I don't want to read it.
Well, you can read it in silence.
I got things I gotta do in the background.
This is on the audiobook app. How long was that reading? It was probably like 20 minutes.
It was not 20 minutes. It was probably like 10.
Ben, do you know the new one?
It doesn't change the limits, but it allows the parties to coordinate more with candidates. So it fundamentally changes the relationship between political parties
Fundamentally.
and candidates. But the limits still stick, there's the various limits: individual contribution, corporate contribution. We'll see what the effect on super PACs it has, but I don't think most people will see much of a
Change.
Anybody got any change? Yeah, I don't give a fuck. If you get money from a fucking from me, I don't give a fuck. Get your money and move around.
Really? Okay.
I don't.
Okay.
You gonna vote for these motherfuckers?
Okay.
I'm sorry, man. But that's how it is. I know.
Well, yeah, but do you know what
I'm just reading. I'm just reading.
No, I want you to read it because it's part of what's gonna happen in the future. But I hate Apex when they talk about Apex. I hate when they talk about, oh, I'm not taking money from food bags. I don't care.
But you can't take money.
But they have to talk about this very important issue in the United States.
I don't care. They're getting money from somebody. I don't care.
It doesn't matter. Many people care about it.
Yeah,
it affects elections? So if people care about the outcomes of elections that affect how our country moves in the future, then decisions in cases like this matter a great deal. And people should be interested in the reasons for the decisions, the outcome of the decisions. It's otherwise there's no point in crying about Congo losing if we're not interested in the infrastructure that makes it easier for the GOP to fuck shit up.
Here we go.
Yeah, whatever directly affects your economy, the pocket.
Hold on a second, Ollie. Just sense of the dramatic here. I'll be dropping it soon. It's coming. It's the next one. It's the last. It's the last decision. The very last day. And they're going in to get it now.
Oh, is that what they're announcing?
I have the decision.
Oh,
You have birthright citizenship. Right. It is written by
Roberts.
the executive order has been. 1 second. We have birthright citizenship. Trump v. Barber. Trump is lost. The executive order is struck down. The opinion is. Let me go through the opinion now. massive. Oh my God. Arcane, are you sitting down?
I'm looking at it. I'm seeing it.
It is 200 pages.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It is 200 pages. I have work to do this week, and I'm going to do it, I swear, but I will be spending time on it. It is 6 to 3.
5. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why am I? Where is Barrett? Wait.
The Descent is by Thomas and Alito, and Gorsuch also filed dissents. It is 6 to 3. I was wrong on my prediction. Wow, I cannot believe it was 6 to 3. The court holds that the order violates the 14th Amendment. There you go.
Well, I told Spiritus earlier today because we were talking about this because y'all did my open PC open the room, and I said that I believe that we'll get at least 6 votes, maybe 7. Kavanaugh concurred in the judgment, but he dissented in the rationale. So that's an odd one. I wasn't sure how far the left would swing, but it's interesting that he just concurred in the judgment.
Kavanaugh said that it didn't violate the 14th Amendment, but violated a statute.
Yep.
Which, you know, good people on here have talked about a bunch. So, yeah, there you go. Sotomayor, Kagan, Barrett, Jackson, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They join the opinion in full. Kavanaugh concurs, but says it violated the law. There you go. As expected.
Way to bring it home. Wait a minute, you said as expected?
Yeah, I think it was expected that it would be struck down. Yeah.
Okay.
I thought it was going to be minimum 7 too, because Gorsuch had that argument about, you know, domicility, but you know, and I didn't know where Thomas was. I always knew that Alito was going to go for it.
Okay. That was just showing enough. So 6 to 3, so Thomas did go. He voted with yeah.
Well, he wrote his own. So we'll see. We'll see what he wrote. We'll see what he.
Well, I don't think anybody sounded the alarm.
Hello?
Come on, guys.
Hello?
So that's once now.
Kavanaugh's decision was what I feared might be the outcome of the case, because what he says in his opinion is that Congress could write federal statutes, yes, to block children of undocumented people from becoming citizens. And that could be an invitation to the United States. We have a chance to address this immigration problem. Justice Kavanaugh has tasked us, has given us this task to pass legislation that can end birthright citizenship for these Asian groups. And they granted Justice Kavanaugh that same Congressman so I was concerned that more justices would say that.
Why was I disqualified? Because it's called election court. I challenged Darren LaHood's petition. He challenged mine. I had 1,600 signatures. He had 1,600 signatures. And guess who they kicked off the ballot? Me, little old me, John Kitover. But they didn't review Darren LaHood's petitions. You know why? Because he didn't have the number of signatures needed to get on the ballot.
honest with you, I'm no expert, and I'm just trying to do this stuff for fun. I actually believe that's probably correct.
What's correct?
I think that Kavanaugh's take is probably correct, that Congress can write legislation to define what that means. I think that's probably correct.
To define what the citizenship clause means.
Yeah, to define, to whether or not the so-called anchor baby
Congress can write legislation that enforces or implements the citizenship clause, but it has to do so in a way that respects what the citizenship clause stands for. So Congress cannot legally pass legislation that narrows the scope of birthright citizenship set forth by the citizenship clause. If it does that, it is violating the Constitution.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. 5 people agree with you, which is why if Congress were to do it, it wouldn't get passed. But I believe if conservatives continue winning and putting people on the court, I believe that's actually what's going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Always suggested to me that Congress could define it. And, Congress has appropriate legislation, whatever the bottom section is at the end of the amendment. I always thought that was the direction. Now, I don't think it could, not to be fair to Kavanaugh, it can be done with an executive order. But it would also be done through, for sure, it would be done through an act of Congress. And I hate to toot my own horn, but as R. Kelly put it, toot, toot, let me get that beep, beep. I have to toot my own horn here because I said, this is always
Let me get that. Let me get that.
If want to change what it means, you have to take it to the people. And
Take it to the people!
Through a constitutional amendment. And if this issue is as big a deal as people say it is, they should call for a constitutional convention and change it.
Facts. So,
Facts! Facts!
and I have a question. So, whenever these Republicans talk about the subject of jury,
Whenever these motherfucking Republicans.
I always refer back to like Wonkin Marker or Kim, whatever the fuck the name is. Wonkin Marker.
Where the fuck that his name is? Fuck that bitch!
Legislation alone is not gonna, because people are gonna contest that legislation. It's gonna require some type of amendment, right? Because Wonkin Mark actually identified what the subject to jurisdiction meant when it came to
You out of your element, Patty! You out of your element!
the Constitution said what it
You're doing too much! You're done talking!
You know what? Did she just go or was it me?
Oh, she's in the Matrix.
So I think that what Kavanaugh's saying is that legislation will do. So I'm going to read that. That'll probably be the first thing of all this I read. I'm very interested in that. I'll read that. Until it's not. And the way the law moves and progresses, Congress is going to have to clarify. And when they clarify, it'll be there. The best thing to do is to put in the Constitution an explicit language, not in 19th century ambiguities where we have to go to the Ouija board, where we have to go, well, this senator said this.
Motherfucking
this
Ouija
senator
board?
got me losing the rest of my
Ouija
eyesight,
board?
reading the congressional record.
Hello?
That.
Hello?
We need to just have the Constitution amended It just says all persons, unless you are here, blah, 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 blah,
Blah, blah, blah, blah, blah.
That's it. And people have to decide. And at a certain point,
Blah, 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 blah.
with all due respect,
Blah, 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 blah.
Americans have to stop complaining
Blah, 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 blah.
and get to the business of defining their society in the
Through
way
words.
they want it to be defined.
Through words.
If this is an issue for people,
Hello?
people need to take up the issue.
Hello?
You're not gonna get it with an executive order. Let's be honest.
Let's be honest.
Nobody really thought this was going to stand.
Nope. Nobody.
The executive order.
The executive order.
Can y'all hear me or not?
Hello?
Now we can. You were going for a while. Go ahead, you go.
Y'all hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. It's my property.
What I'm saying is, like, this Wonkim arc define the subject of jurisdiction thereof meant. And like
The fuck, Patty? You wasted time, bitch. Get out of the matrix, bitch. You in the matrix, bitch.
I agree with that stuff. But this is what I was saying for somebody who's talking about. This is structure. You put people in court. You put people in court. You got 6 conservatives. Right? Your big thing is America. You're a nationalist. You're not a classical conservative where it's about the individual sacrificing for the group. You're not a neoliberal nation. Small N nation. Identity, nationhood, right? That's what it is. I'm trying to not get too dorky, so I'll be real quick.
You are very dorky.
You cannot be satisfied. And then the next person comes in. Never took the case to the American people. George Bush ran on the constitutional amendment. How come Donald Trump and MAGA had to talk about amending the Constitution?
MAGA. MAGA.
To sum up and recap, if I were MAGA, I will be pissed.
MAGA.
Bill comes in, Joe Ossoff comes in, Mark Kelly comes in, Kamala Harris comes in, the next person comes in just like Joe Biden did. Just change everything. Like a pair of legs after full burnings in Oakland in 2010. Just wild. President Biden, Trump, and shut up. Wait until the brief time. Somebody comes here and struggles as a citizen. You are not lottery. It's not special. They wanted to change the blood structure. Take over the DEI in front of the university or college. That can be changed. That's what I'm talking about. My sermon's done. Cash App a white woman. Because I'm now crossed over. I'm into the swirl.
Hello? He in the swirl?
Oh, bad. You want to hear something funny about the decision, the majority opinion? I'm working my way through it. Kidding, not reading closely yet. Roberts relies on legislative history. He refers to.
He relies on legislative history. Oh my God.
That said, congressional debates don't really should not inform the way the Supreme Court decides constitutional questions. Or statutory questions. Yeah, constitutional questions or statutory questions. So that's funny that he's now relying on legislative history. That's not something that conservatives like him usually do. Is that? But good for him.
I gotta say, I found this very disturbing because it's basically.
Of course you did, Tierra.
Constitution and 6-3 decision as to the federal law, right? Because Gorsuch joined in only on the basis of federal law. So this is Kavanaugh, sorry. So it's like 5-4. This is, I thought it would be more than that. I am really disturbed, quite frankly, by what was said. You know, obviously the majority opinion seems to me to be pretty well grounded, etc. I think, and Kavanaugh, I've read the Kavanaugh dissent. I haven't gotten all for the other dissents, but you know, the fact that Kavanaugh, all these people who are strict constitutionalists, we never look beyond. We look at everything in 1860 or whatever. All of a sudden, you know, Kavanaugh's like, well, you know, we got to look for what's going on today. Right? We have to look at the border crisis. We have to look at, you know, new facts. This is extraordinary to me that they are literally turning over anything they can on the basis of new facts, not the basis of British common law, which is, you know, which is something they always look at. They always refer to. I don't know. I found it really disturbing.
Hold on, Tierra. Let me give you some hope. So, Tierra, let me explain a couple of things. Tierra was Abraham's father. Tierra was also
Here we go.
inside the promised land. In other words,
Go to the tents of meeting for your purification.
George Michael's in the building. They thought you won 5-4. That means at the next presidential election, we cannot allow people to say that the Supreme Court doesn't matter anymore.
Hello?
Huh? Let me give you an example. Let me put it in sports. There's a lot of blacks in here, so let me put it in sports. Let me put it in terms.
Hello?
Because I don't do sports anymore. You won a championship. You won the chip 4 games to 2.
Hello?
It was close. Go get the big free agent.
Get him.
Go get Kevin Durant and win 2 more.
Go get him.
Continue to stack. It is disturbing from your perspective. All that means is you got 2 old motherfuckers who won't be here for a long time. They're on the other side. Win the presidential election, win the Senate, and put your people in there so you don't have to worry about it. Remember your people.
Hello?
Does it look up to the golden serpent, and you will be healed.
Look up to the golden serpent. What the
Of the
fuck?
tent of meeting,
He's in the tent of meeting now. About to be purified.
even though it took 40 years, you made it in. The promise again.
Gotta take the win, baby.
Jay, what do you think? Oh, let me also say real quick. Jay, what do you think about? Let me ask you a question. Hold up. What do you think about the transgender decision? The media's reporting 6-3.
No, it's not 6-3. What?
Well, look, I'm a legal expert. I'm retired though. I'm not a practicing attorney anymore. I just play one on Farmhouse.
I think.
Well, look.
Is describing a sort of much narrower case than I frankly thought it was.
Ooh.
Basically, what the court is talking about is, and what the majority opinion said was that even if you could prove that, that the transgender athlete did not have any advantages, it's not really that relevant. You should have.
The transgender athlete doesn't have any advantages.
This was what they were going to do, right?
It's nothing to do with gender, okay.
Being raised was a little narrow. It's not really pushing all transgender athletes. It was those that have undergone
Oh, hey, just this thing. How are you? I hate you, John Kitover. I hate you. John Kitover, I hate you. You should be removed from this app. You should be removed from all social media platforms. I hate you. I hate you, John Kitover. There's no advantage. We gotta prove. Do you have an advantage? Stupid bitch. Stupid fucking bitch. I'll back the campaign finance contribution. Hello.
The biggest surprise of the major decision yesterday, it was the nailed the ballot being written by ACB. That to me, like Stevie Wonder said, it knocked me off my feet. I see it.
Sing it, bitch.
That will knock me off my feet. Everything else is pretty much to be expected.
Rice Roni.
That is what I just said. Isn't it extraordinary? All of a sudden, it's like we gotta move with the times.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you say that, but the living Constitution, Chief Justice Roberts now believes in legislative history, informing constitutional analysis. These are maneuvers that these conservative justices in the past have rejected. They're dismissing them, but now they're relying on them to suit their ends. Interesting.
I was wondering, I was like, okay, she got this picture up. I wondered. Awesome. So you guys, summer is going so great.
Close your eyes and get comfortable. It's time to breathe deeply and relax completely. Breathe deeply and relax completely, allowing the quietness of spirit to come in. Feel the blood flowing through your arms and legs, through your body and mind. Relaxing, relaxing, relaxing.
Hello?
Take a deep breath. Hold it as long as you comfortably can. And then let it out slowly through slight parted lips. And when the breath is all the way out, contract your stomach muscles and push it even further out and further out. And then repeat this process of breathing deeply and relaxing completely. And if any outside thoughts should come into your mind, simply brush them aside and return your concentration to the sound of my voice. And breathing deeply and relaxing completely. Breathing deeply and relaxing completely.
Hello?
And now use your imagination and feel your body relaxing one part at a time in response to my words. Play the role, play the part, and mentally relay the relaxing suggestions into that part of your body and feel them take effect. Feel your body relaxing, relaxing, relaxing. And the relaxing sensations are now coming into the toes of both of your feet at the same time. Moving right on down into your arches, into your heels, and on up into your ankle. Completely relaxed, completely relaxed. And these soothing sensations are now moving on up your legs to your knees, relaxing all the muscles as it goes. And on up your legs to your thighs and to your hips, just completely relaxing. And your full attention is on the sound of my voice. As the relaxing sensations move into the fingers of both of your hands. And it now moves on up into your forearms, relaxing your forearms, and on up into your upper arms, relaxing your upper arms. And your fingers and hands and forearms and upper arms are now just completely relaxed as the soothing sensations move on down into the base of your spine. And then begin to move slowly up your spine, up your spine, up your spine, and into the back of your neck and shoulder muscles. And the back of your neck and shoulder muscles just completely relaxed. And the relaxed relaxing sensations now move all your scalp relaxing, and feel the relaxing sensations flow down into your facial muscle, relaxing your facial muscle, just completely relaxing your facial muscle. Allow a little space between your teeth, and a bright white light coming down from above and entering your crown chakra of spirituality on the top of your head. Now, this is the universal light of life energy. See it, feel it, create it with the unlimited power of your mind, and feel the light within you, flowing through your body and mind, filling you to overflowing with this bright white protectory light. And now, vividly imagine the light concentrating around your heart area, and visualize it emerging from your heart area to totally surround your body with a protectory aura of bright white God light. And as you continue to listen to the sound of my voice, vividly imagine yourself in a situation in which you are going down, 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 deeper and deeper down, as I count backwards from 7 to 1. Number 7, deeper, 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 down, down, down. Number 6, deeper, 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 down, down, down. Number 5, deeper, 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 down, down, down. Number 4, deeper, 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 down, down, down. Number 3, deeper, 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 down, down, down. Number 2, deeper, 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 down, down, down. Number 1. And you're now very, very deep. And you feel deep. But let's go down even deeper, even deeper, even deeper. Number 7, deeper, 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 down, down, down. Number 6, deeper, 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 down, down, down. Number 5, deeper, 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 down, down, down. Number 4, deeper, 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 down, down, down. Number 3, deeper, 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 down, down, down. Number 2, deeper, 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 down, down, down. number 1. And you're now relaxed and at ease and at peace in a relaxing, altered state of consciousness. And each and every time you alter consciousness, you will go deeper than the time before until you've reached your natural level, which can be maintained by using this technique several times a week. Now, if at any time you feel uncomfortable in any way, all you have to do to awaken is to mentally count yourself up from 1 to 5. So you're in control. You can awaken at any time you desire to do so. And you're now relaxed and at ease, and the quietness of spirit permeates your body and mind. And I'm going to begin by providing suggestions that will be communicated to every level of your body and mind. And they'll be accepted on every level of your body and mind. A quietness of spirit now permeates your body and mind. You release all tension created by stored up energy within your nervous system. All nervous energy is released to flow freely through your body and mind to be used in constructive ways. You feel calm, relaxed, and at peace with yourself, the world, and everyone in it. You have the courage and confidence to do what you need to do to resolve your problems. You can resolve your concerns and conflicts with minimal effort. You accept the things you cannot change, and you change the things you can. You accept who you are. You always do your best, which is all anyone can ask. Every day, in every way, you become more peaceful and harmonious. Negativity flows through you without affecting you. As a result of this programming, you develop a new mellow and confident self-image. Quietness of spirit are your key trigger words for post-hypnotic conditioned response. And these suggestions have been communicated to every level of your body and mind, and they've been accepted on every level of your body and mind. And it's now time to visualize yourself having successfully overcome any and all anxiety. Imagine how good it feels to experience an ongoing quietness of spirit. Imagine your reactions and the reactions of those close to you. Vividly fantasize all the changes and benefits derived from living life in this calm state of mind. Create every detail of these visualizations, and in so doing, you communicate your desires to the levels of mind that will assist you in manifesting the positive outcomes. Imagine what you desire as if it were already so. Do this now while I'm quiet for a while.
TikTok notices I can't use repurposed material. Though not explicitly copyrighted, still can't play hypnosis. Hello? Hello? Ah! We're scrambled eggs! Hello? 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 Hello?
And you've just seen your own reality. And you're open to positive suggestions which you'll accept and act upon. A quietness of spirit now permeates your body and mind. You release all tension created by stored up energy within your nervous, with yourself, the world, and everyone in it. You have the courage and confidence to do what you need to do. You accept the things you cannot change, and you change the things you can. You accept who you are. You always do your best, which is all anyone can ask. Every day, in every way, you become more peaceful and harmonious. Negativity flows through you without affecting you. As a result of this programming, you develop a new mellow and confident self-image. Quietness of spirit are your key trigger words for post-hypnotic conditioned response. And these suggestions have been communicated to every level of your body and mind, and they've been accepted on every level of your body and mind. And these suggestions have been communicated to every level of your body and mind, and they've been accepted on every level of your body and mind. And it's now time to use a repeat technique to saturate your mind with a message. Together, we'll communicate it to every level of your being. So say the words along with me, silently in your mind. Come out silently and hear them echo out across the universe and back to you. A quietness of spirit now permeates my body and mind, and my stored up energy is released to flow freely through my system. A quietness of spirit now permeates my body and mind, and my stored up energy is released to flow freely through my system. A quietness of spirit now permeates my body and mind, and my stored up energy is released to flow freely through my system. A quietness of spirit now permeates my body and mind, and my stored up energy is released to flow freely through my system. A quietness of spirit now permeates my body and mind, and my stored up energy is released to flow freely through my system. A quietness of spirit now permeates my body and mind, and my stored up energy is released to flow freely through my system. A quietness of spirit now permeates my body and mind, and my stored up energy is released to flow freely through my system. A quietness of spirit now permeates my body and mind, and my stored up energy is released to flow freely through my system. A quietness of spirit now permeates my body and mind, and my stored up energy is released to flow freely through my system. A quietness of spirit now permeates my body and mind, and my stored up energy is released to flow freely through my system. That's right. A quietness of spirit now permeates your body and mind, and all your stored up energy is released to flow freely through your system. And every day, every way, you become more peaceful and harmonious. Your new, mellow, and confident self-image is a projection of who you are. It is. You are mellow and self-confident. And I'm now going to give you some key trigger words for post-hypnotic conditioned response. Anytime you feel the slightest bit nervous, simply stop what you're doing, close your eyes, breathe deeply, and say these words quietly to yourself. Quietness of spirit. The words quietness of spirit are post-hypnotic conditioned response trigger words to reduce anxiety and intensify your calm and confident demeanor. These key trigger words invoke powerful post-programming mental conditioning that you can draw upon when you need it. When you say the words quietness of spirit, you'll immediately feel a surge of calmness and confidence flow through your body and mind. And every time you hear the suggestion, and every time you use your quietness of spirit programming, it becomes more and more effective. And it's now time to repeat another powerful affirmation along with me. When I say the words quietness of spirit, I relax, regain control, and experience a surge of calmness and confidence. When I say the words quietness of spirit, I relax, regain control, and experience a surge of calmness and confidence. When I say the words quietness of spirit, I relax, regain control, and experience a surge of calmness and confidence. When I say the words quietness of spirit, I relax, regain control, and experience a surge of calmness and confidence. When I say the words quietness of spirit, I relax, regain control, and experience a surge of calmness and confidence. When I say the words quietness of spirit, I relax, regain control, and experience a surge of calmness and confidence. When I say the words quietness of spirit, I relax, regain control, and experience a surge of calmness and confidence. When I say the words quietness of spirit, I relax, regain control, and experience a surge of calmness and confidence. When I say the words quietness of spirit, I relax, regain control, and experience a surge of calmness and confidence. When I say the words quietness of spirit, I relax, regain control, and experience a surge of calmness and confidence. That's right. You've programmed this suggestion on every level of your body and mind, and it becomes your reality. And now, once again, it's time to create another visualization in which you perceive yourself having successfully accomplished your goals. Fantasize.
This kind of a question, Philip. Think about. I just heard what you said, but consider someone in charge, whether it's a governor, and definitely certain states like New Jersey, where the governor has incredible power of appointment, but in cities where they can appoint heads of departments, and if he floods those heads with Jew haters and with people that are problematic.
Can I just bring you up to speed? Because I think you're off in a different direction than the conversation.
After she finishes her thought with that.
Yeah, just let me.
You're not where we're at. You're not where we're at in the conversation. So can I bring you up to speed?
If that's okay.
Can I bring you up to speed, Abby? Because so we're all having the same
I'd like to
conversation.
hear the end of the thought before.
That's fine. so that we can all be in the same conversation.
Yeah,
Do you mind?
Yeah, it's
Do
just.
you mind if I just fill you in so that we can be on the same page? Let's be on the same page.
Just give me your interpretation. Can you?
Okay, hold on.
Let's be on the same page. Let me just share where we began.
Caleb, just briefly.
Let me just share where we began.
Not Caleb.
Okay, let me just share where we began.
Please not Caleb. Please. Please.
Norm, I asked him to.
Let me just share so everyone can
Please
hear.
not Caleb, if that's okay.
Norman, I'm not listening to you
Yeah, why are you interrupting Abby?
because Abby's not in the right conversation that we're having. She's in a different place.
And then you can interrupt it, okay?
No, I'm gonna do what the mods ask, and the mods are allowing me.
I was gonna get a cup of coffee and you guys.
The mods are allowing me to clarify.
Abby, hold on just a
It's
second.
But what happens is at my age, when I get interrupted, I forget my train of thought, which is kind of what's
So let's
happening.
get on the same page.
So, but I was kind of going to finish up with when you said inherent power. The inherent power of someone in office also has the veto power, and he's exercising his veto power. And you have people that get into office that have within different jurisdictions that can control more than just figureheads. That's what I want to say.
Right, so what we were talking about is, we began with the question at the top, right? Which led us into a conversation around democratic and liberal values and institutions being used to undo democracies and liberal institutions. Which I think we agreed is like, I hope we can see that the Constitution and the ways that we have designed the country and evolved the country have that as a built-in possibility, right? The experiment of self-government that we had built in the idea that we can undo it with the same systems through which we built it.
Do you think it's complicated? Do you think the Constitution is a complicated or a simple document?
No, I think it's
It was written by some farmers, right? Think about it.
Oh yeah, just average everyday farmers, fucking shoveling shit, milking goats and cows, just regular people, no learned scholars, no philosophers, no Freemasons, no devout Christians or Catholics, just everyday fucking farmers. It's such a simple document. It's so simple.
It seems Abby, just fucking, you can disagree, but you're not going to convince me.
I'm not trying to convince you. I'm not trying to convince you. I just asked you a question.
Language polite, Caleb. I think you should treat the women in the room with more polite.
I think
you and I,
if you want me to treat
I can't opine on the Talmud. I can't opine on the Talmud. That's your bailiwick. I can't opine on it. I've read it, some of it, but you know it so much better. But I can't opine on the Constitution, and I think I know that better than you. And I think it's a pretty simple document.
Can the moderator pass the mic? Hold on, Caleb. Carla, you've been speaking a long time. I think the moderator will pass.
Excuse me, she was speaking to me.
So anyway, that's all I wanted to say to you, Caleb. I'm not trying to convince you. It's just, and you may say to me,
I heard the point. I heard it. I got it. I heard you. I heard it.
Well, I want to hear this last guess, Abby, if that's okay.
it's all right.
I appreciate you think it's a simple document. From the amount I've read on it,
Why
which is not as much as you.
people off? What are you afraid of hearing? I don't get it. Why do you do that?
It might not be as much as you've read it. It certainly isn't, right? But from what I can tell from Supreme Court rulings, from the histories of the Supreme Court, and again, just what I've read, there's probably a little bit more than some and less than others.
Well, can the moderators pass the mic? Because we heard a lot from Caleb.
I'm almost done. It doesn't seem that simple to me. The application of the law doesn't seem simple. The principles might be simple, but the application is not.
Okay, so will the moderators pass the mic respectfully?
Yeah, I'll pass the mic. But I do think that
what makes constitutional interpretation complex is the relative length of the document, right? It doesn't spell everything out, right? So we do, I think you can argue that the text is economical, right? I mean, so compared to modern constitutions, which are so long, but I think the simplicity, like, I think the economy of language does make its interpretation complex, right?
Thank you, Scott. Scott, I agree with you. Okay.
1 second. Okay, I have it to you next. Sometimes too difficult. The commas in the Second Amendment really can lead you to multiple interpretations. I really wish they had some more periods and full sentences as opposed to things strung together with commas.
There was a shortage of periods in those days.
Yeah, I guess there was a problem. Andrew, welcome to the stage.
Thank you. So I want to thank Scott and Yaakov. This is one of the rare rooms that has polite, thoughtful, intelligent people on both sides of the political debate. We have leftists and non-leftists, and I appreciate that very much. Okay, I'll be succinct since I'm really succinct. I think this ruling is an unbelievable gift from heaven for the Republican nominee in 2028, and I'll be very succinct about that. I think this dramatically improves the chances of the Republicans winning in 2028 because the Republicans can say it is now settled law that every single illegal immigrant can give birth to as many children as they want. It doesn't matter if these children are going to go on welfare. It doesn't matter if the children are going to vote communist. Every single illegal immigrant now has a blank check to create children who hate America who are going to go on welfare. Therefore, anyone who loves America, doesn't matter what your political philosophy is, what party is, in the 2028 election, it's a straight-up referendum. Do you want an America filled with children of illegals who go on welfare, or do you want to round up and deport every single illegal? Now, I believe with this ruling, the vast majority of swing voters are going to vote to deport all illegals. Bottom line is, I think
I would never shit on you, but I put in the chat, Kelev, I put in the chat the comment that I was to make, that the actual document was not written by elitists or great scholars, but by four farmers. And it was written for Americans to read it. Yes, I obviously agree.
I think they were pretty well off.
Yeah, but I obviously agree the interpretation is very complicated and can be very challenging. But the actual document, my comment to you was just the document itself, which is curious. And another time, not for this room, I'm curious if you think that the Torah itself is a complicated document or it's the interpretation.
I think it's the exact analogy. Thanks for clarifying that.
That's what I meant to say.
Thanks for clarifying that. I think what Scott said, Yaakov, there's commas and periods. And I think that's why I see it complex. What you just said is fine. I can sign on to that. But I would say the Torah is exactly the same.
Well, the issue with the Torah analogy is that you can't understand the Torah without the Mishnah. An eye for an eye, tooth for tooth does not literally mean I get to poke at your eye if you get to poke at my eye. And, there's an hacking set of...
Because there's a court.
Exactly. And it literally means compensation.
That was the point I was trying to make.
But that's why it's the same.
Where is the backing documents that sit underneath the Constitution?
Legislation.
Legislation comes from the
It's reinterpreted, but it's still meant for the American citizen to be able to read it. It's not written like John Milton, okay?
What I meant was, there's nothing that says, okay, this clause, this clause of this article means the following. This is what we really meant. We voted in short form. Now here's what it really means. There's not that. Legislation comes.
I think that's the right analogy.
Okay.
The right analogy is written documents that accompanies common law. Understand? I think that's the right analogy.
That's not an analogy.
Right? And I think he's
study something called legislative history, which is you'll see the court when it uses its arguments and its reasoning, often talk about the legislative intent behind, especially if they're nullifying or they're justifying a particular law. And with this 14th Amendment, I'm going to circle back to what you wrote about. With the 14th Amendment, with the specific language that was being litigated just now, to the legislative intent, which was someone help me with his name. He was in Michigan, and he was so that's one of the ways to interpret it. I wonder if we interpret it the same way if we look at what the
So we do both.
right?
We do several different things. I think one method, that kind of legislative intent is certainly present. There's another method that says, the contemporary application is what's primary. I see both of these in the American legal system. I see both of these in Jewish traditional ways of studying text.
Scalia, so sorry, wasn't Scalia a proponent against legislative intent and really looked at literally what the word said?
With respect to the Constitution, but then you also have when you look at the law and trying to understand the law and its constitutionality, you also have to look at the totality of how it arrived in the first place. When Scalia ever considered legislative, I think he did.
And I thought he just looked at what the text of the law said in relationship to the Constitution, whether it violated principles of the Constitution. I think he actually did look at what a few members said and things, but I have to look it up. I seem to remember that.
Can I just say something? I really want to say I'm proud that Israel recognized Somaliland.
Okay, let's try to keep it to the discussion. That's almost 1 year old.
It's not happening, guys. But sometimes, as a curious,
Why are they even gonna let him speak?
I've seen the Supreme Court right now.
okay, fine.
Thank you. Cautious not to try to read people's minds.
Yes.
And use the method of what would a reasonable person at the time have meant by these words. So he was more of a textualist, which I believe is, again, I anticipated the Supreme Court upholding quote-unquote birthright citizenship because of the plainness of the language. So if you read the language plainly, it's no longer complicated. And if you share the values of democracy, once you are trying to undermine democracy, then, in my humble opinion, you're no longer a good fit for this democracy. And if we have not already created a bulwark against those who would undo us by using our very values, then we need to create additional bulwarks. And I think there's no good argument against doing that. Once again, I'm talking about God.
What do you suggest those bulwarks would be?
I don't know yet. I think we have to begin to think about what they.
What do you think?
Want to ask me again? Same answer.
Oh, okay. Great. An idea with no solutions. Got it.
It's not an idea, it's a question. We have to be unafraid of questions.
Right. You guys only talking about this case? You guys only talking about this case? You're talking about the other rulings too?
No. Norm brought up a different matter.
Okay. So, but just this case we're talking about, not the other ones that came out.
Just the Constitution to allow presidents to be non-natural born citizens. And then, we've been all over the place, so you want to take it someplace else.
You were chatting. You don't know the decision that's interesting to Abby?
Pardon me?
Yeah, there was the FTC decision.
So the decision on girls in sports, you've heard me talk about this because this one hits home for me because my daughter played sports at Penn, which was the original story that broke this into a major issue with Leah Thomas. And my daughter had to deal with the issue of men in the locker room. She was not on the swim team. She played for a different sport at Penn. But it's, you know, it's very personal.
It does.
To me. I was thrilled
Quietness
about
of
this
spirit.
decision, because I also believe in women's athletics, and I think that what was
Quietness
happening
of
was hurting women's athletics.
spirit.
I think that they came to the right conclusion.
It's a personal zen.
I also think even in the dissenting
It's people like
opinions,
this
I mean,
that
again,
need to
I
learn
had
the
read,
power
like, listening
of
to
the
news
quietness
coverage
of
on it,
spirit.
and just listening to what the concurring and dissenting
Quietness of
opinions are.
spirit.
There's a need, even the liberal justices understand the need to protect women in sports.
Quietness of spirit.
And also, they pointed this out on the news.
Hello?
That it's like polls at 70% of the country is pretty much in favor of us. So I think that was a good ruling. I think it matched the feeling in the country. Yeah, it made sense. And, you know, the big question, so there's 27 states that have this law. The question will be if, you know, the other states will follow suit. This gives them the ability to follow suit. If they don't, and they enact laws that allow for the transgender suits, I think it'll be challenged, and rightfully so. But you know, it's definitely something that the Republicans ran on and ran successfully.
Respectfully, I agree with you. If I ever am interrupting you and preventing you from getting your thought out, please let me know. But sometimes jump the gun, and I apologize.
It's cool. Go ahead.
Okay, with that intro, Abby, I agree with everything you said, but I'm really interested in the electoral implications of it. And my read, not a politician the way some other people are, but my read is that of all the issues in America, if you look at every single issue in America, what swings the swing voters, that is the swing voters in the suburbs, the college-educated swing voters in the suburbs who sometimes vote Democrat, sometimes vote Republican, it is my understanding that this issue is the number one issue that has been shown to swing the votes. So I'll try to be succinct. In the suburbs of Philadelphia, and you really think Donald Trump is a piece of shit, you're repulsed by him, and you believe in everything that the Democratic Party stands for, but a man with a penis comes into your daughter's locker room and waves his penis around. That in and of itself, the waving of the penis by leftists, progressives, is enough to persuade a swing voter to vote Republican. It is a very, very powerful, visceral. I'm about to land my plane. So my theory is anything that keeps this in the public discourse, anything that makes an election, a referendum, yes or no, do you want penises in your daughter's locker room, that will dramatically help the Republican Party win. So my question for you, and I'm about to land my plane, is as a person that wants the Republican Party to win, as a committed Republican, do you agree that keeping this as the number one issue in the election really helps all Republicans, or am I excited?
1,000%. As a matter of fact, you even more simplify that in the election for president, the Arab vote went to Trump because of this issue. They played this issue heavily at the end. It was so significant. I completely agree with you. I think it will be in the forefront. It polls at the top, just as you saying. I mean, the mom and the suburban mom in Philadelphia, which I was one at one point in my life, clearly that what's happening in their schools and what happens with their school boards, and it's why originally Youngkin got elected in Virginia on kinds of issues. So politically, you hit it. It's going to stay in the forefront of the Republican platform. And it will help them. Whether they'll win, there's so many other issues that they're struggling with, but this one is a home run for them.
I have a different point of view.
Steve, go ahead, Scott.
I fundamentally agree with the sentiment that I think culture issues beat class every time.
Have you been a suburban mom, Scott? Pelican, were you a suburban mom?
No. What I'm saying is, I think when it comes down to Republicans playing culture over Democrats playing class, I think very often culture wins, right? I mean, I think we saw that in 2024 with the sort of brilliant ad. I mean, it was, that wine became Juanita in jail, and Kamala, funded it. I do think there's a power to cultural issues, and I think it's one of the reasons why I think it's very interesting. People will say, these people in Middle America are voting against their interests or something. I always challenge when people say, well, you're saying that their interests are only material, right? So that, I think people on the left tend to dismiss the power of culture and value issues. And so people they might, I would argue the Big Beautiful Bill probably didn't help economic interests of some of Trump's supporters, but I think their loyalty to him is around cultural issues where he comes to their defense. And I think there's a group of people in the country that feel bullied by the liberal elite, and I'm on the left, so I have a completely different point of view. It happened, right?
I want to hear from Yaakov first, please.
Yaakov, go ahead. I can tell you about this case.
Go right ahead.
No, he said go ahead, Yaakov. I'll wait.
Go ahead, Yaakov. I'm seizing the moderator's badge in order to demand you.
I do want to hear Steve's opinion.
Yeah, go Steve, it's fine.
Well, here's some background on me. I was an athlete, a two-sport athlete in high school. I've coached. I know a lot of these people in the coaching fraternity around here. This particular case, this person comes from a school that is an athletic powerhouse statewide. And since this particular individual has just been dominating track and field events, not just participating, dominating. When she got to the state tournament this year, or the state meet, he ended up winning, I think it was number one in the discus, and winning and placed on the podium. So this is how egregious this whole thing has been. It's been common knowledge about this case down here, and track and field coaches just been driving them crazy. Because, like I say, he's not only come from a powerhouse athletic school, but to jump into this and then just absolutely dominate and decimate girls track and field has been egregious, to say the least.
Hello.
This is the perfect example of using our values to destroy our home. Here we take the liberal value, which is the idea that we want to accommodate, and we turn it on its head, and we allow people who are not women to eliminate women from a sport in the name of being liberal and inclusive and accommodating. It's a perfect example. Now, I didn't see the ruling.
So I agree with Norm, but I actually think it's a blessing for America. A big part of America's success is precisely our progressive community's decision. America's progressive community is unlike the progressive community in most other countries. Our progressive community has just take on the most our progressive community has decided to destroy progressivism in America by poisoning it with these cultural issues. It's not only having people with penises in girls' locker rooms, but having people who are males defeat and demoralize girls in sports. But even beyond that, there's this whole range. There's this anti-Semitism, right? Statistics just keep that progressive young women have less than half as many children as conservative young women. So when progressives, and I'll try to be succinct, when the progressive community goes into our public schools and teaches girls not to have children, they say having children ruins the environment and it's selfish, The anti-natalism that the progressive community preaches in our public schools, that is an extinction level threat to everyone with children. Now, I don't want to tell tales out of school, but I know for a fact that there are a lot of people in this room who have daughters who are refusing to reproduce. Their daughters have absorbed leftism and the progressivism taught in the schools, so their daughters are, fuck it, I'm never going to have kids because I care about the environment or I hate the patriarchy. The bottom line is, and every motherfucking person in this room can Google it, it's proven, progressivism is a suicide cult. It teaches girls not to reproduce. It's a lot of boys to cut their testicles and penises. It is stuff that causes extinction, and the entire progressive community is heading for death. It is a suicide cult. Now, why is this good for America? Sounds pretty shitty, but if you think about it, it's really good. In most countries, the progressives stick to economic issues. They have things like in France, they have a law. It's impossible to fire a bad worker, so bad workers get to keep their job forever, right? In Spain, workers get to retire at some young age. In other words, progressivism in other countries is smart enough to focus entirely on economic issues. And on economic issues, the progressives win. If progressives focus 100% on economic issues, they win elections and they fuck the economy, as we've seen all over the world. So America, the blessing of America, the reason America has the most rapidly growing GDP per capita in the world, the reason why America has all these AI companies, the reason America has Elon Musk, the reason America has the incredible things, every single thing we have that's good, that I'm about to land my plane, is it's good because our progressive community has committed suicide by focusing on these crazy policies. And if I was a conspiracy theorist, I would truly believe that the generous, altruistic billionaires of America, they give money to MC and to Zoran and to all these insane, retarded leftists because it's a poison pill. It's a false flag. A bill interest always, and we never get an insane economic progressive ever elected. Okay, I'm done speaking. I'm happy your criticism.
Hi, this is...
Sure.
So...
Thank you. Sure.
So...
Thank you. I wonder if your last name is Rand.
It is Ayn Rand, and I've been reading... Well, that's okay. I really...
I went down below, I'm sorry.
I see him.
I'm here, I'm joining the audience, but I'm here, I'm listening carefully.
Andrew, I just want to say I really...
I'm here, I'm joining the audience, but I'm here, I'm listening carefully.
Andrew, I just want to say I really appreciate your comments on this app. I think they're needed. A lot of people in this room who disagree with you need to hear what you're saying. However, I have to disagree because we already have the liberal, progressive spending, debt, borrowing system at hand. Doge has eliminated hundreds of billions in woke spending, which is mostly progressive liberal studies, funding studies. Like in Chicago, they funded a $150,000 economic impact study to find out if they improved the train station, would it make it better? But it's worse than that. If you look at the Doge records, if you go on Doge's X account and you look at the actual screenshots of the contract management system run by Oracle that every single purchaser within the federal government has to submit, you submit a description and a dollar amount. And Elon Musk has said, hey, there's no tracking system on this. Anyways, the point is we already have what you're describing. And if Kamala Harris was elected the president and AOC's Green New Deal, it would have been an economic terrorism of stupidity, inefficiency, no priority, purchasing and requisitioning things that we do not need as a country, which digs us further into debt, into a debt hole that we are already in, which is of such epic proportions that even these conversations, in my opinion, these cultural debate conversations are completely meaningless when you look at the actual economic condition of America financially. We have built this huge moat since 1946, which is holding the walls up. But the economies of China and India, which is over $100 trillion, make our economy and our debt look insignificant. Real wealth is products and services, not debt servicing. Products and services, which China manufactures for the world. And they will not stop manufacturing real value. Unlike America, where all we do is attention economy and communication economy. We produce nothing. We only provide services. So we are at a huge, Los Angeles, Karen Bass is a trained communist agent. So unless the Department of Justice, fraud and criminal component of the Department of Justice, begins making arrests of these fraud politicians who are stealing, calling it investment, borrowing, stealing, and then calling it investment. It's not their money. This is money from pensions that people work their lives for, and they're stealing and calling it investment. We are living with frauds, thieves, liars, miscommunication artists. These liberal progressives floating the country, and future economy America is always going to be capitalism, never communism, because communism is so inefficient. It's a horrible economic model and takes the rights away from entrepreneurs. It will become a party there. So I just wanted to thank Andrew down in the audience. And Andrew, see, I'm an entrepreneur. I take risks. That's what entrepreneur means in French. I launched a new I'm going to talk to you about. It's called $1adate.com. Schedule a local date for just $1. I know you're going to want to invest, Andrew, because it's the hottest app. Videos on YouTube with millions of views by beautiful girls talking about it. It's called $1adate.com. And many of the Jewish singles in here who are looking for a little action on the side, you can schedule a local date, just $1. Go to $1adate.com. This is Ayn Rand. I am complete.
I will just say that Donald Trump is kind of, it's not just a progressive. Donald Trump is I think, kind of who, in the first year of his term is at 2.5 trillion.
What would he try and bring?
Yeah, I that's absolutely true. Yeah, so I mean, so he's as much as I so yeah, I think that yeah, I mean this is very so this is a progressive thing, right? There's not something that you can vote for and won't blow up the debt. It's just choosing where they will blow it up. Right? I mean that's the option. There's nobody that's going to balance a budget or just significant goals right now.
He may have been also leading spending on areas that were cut that were necessary. We can get into the argument whether military needed more or not. Military to be limited, and he expanded it. So he, again, you have to get into the specifics.
Well, things was a happy gay pride month.
I do disagree. I don't think Doge is billions. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you can tell me what was the number. I wish it was more. I really have faith in them that it would be a higher number. And I know so much of the stuff that they are covered was insane. I mean, especially the foreign spending we had. It was ridiculous. But I don't think it was hundreds of millions. Maybe somebody can tell me what the number was.
I opened the New York Times website this morning, and I saw with interest that USAID was eliminated because it was the enemy of democracy. Public research went to Sarajevo, went to Slovenia, went to Ljubljana, went to Banja Luka. And my job there was television stations, in fact. We created campaign ads, and the State Department let me know who they wanted to win in their elections. Now, European nations were there doing the same thing. George Soros was there doing the same thing. So here were all these wonderful liberal Democrats trying to impose our vision of how we wanted their elections to go. We were interfering in their elections. We were advocating for our interests. So I have personal experience of democracy being used for anti-democratic ends. So again, the question was asked maybe half an hour ago, what would the solution be? So in the case of USAID being abused, cut it out. In the case of men competing against women in women's sports, the solution is eliminate it. Just stop it. Stop doing crazy things. I heard recently that I forget who it was from. I think it was from Trump, and I think it was from some other Republicans. That his campaign slogan was, "The Democrats are just crazy." And in cases like the two that I've listed for you, and there are many others, including wastefulness, talking about this, what is the 70-30 issue? I've heard it described as an 80-20 issue, the issue of men and women's sports, or women and men's sports. It's crazy. And, Voltaire said that if you can persuade people to believe the impossible, then you can convince them to do the irrational, which is to undermine themselves. So while Andrew made a point that was extreme with anti-natalism, nevertheless it's a point worth considering. And I know it plays our society, and then when we fall below a certain number,
Total fertility rate. TFR.
Yeah. How is it expressed?
As a number. 2.1 is the number actually the population of the state. The average woman needs to have, or country needs to have 2.1 babies per woman. Of course, you can't have 0.1, but it averages out when you do large numbers.
No, I have 0.1 baby, I think.
This is Joe Kitover, Chicago mayoral candidate running in the February 23rd, 2027 election. I need your vote and I need your signature on our petition now. Like this video, share this video. I'm on a podcast right now. We're talking about liberal progressivism, pluralism, and Democrat radicals bankrupting and stealing from Chicago and from America.
Or USAID in the State Department refusing to report to the State Department what they were doing. That was one of the things that Elon Musk brought out. Or whether it's interest of inclusion, destroying women's sports by putting men in there who did just have the state. These are all examples of dumb things that we do that destroy us. And we just want to reverse the tide of that. So what's fascinating to me is that what the people who were bullying Republicans now would have been called Democrats 2 decades ago, because all they're doing is advocating for the Constitution. And I also want to point out that I predicted that the Supreme Court would uphold birthright citizenship in the language of the 14th Amendment. I predicted this, and they did it. I'm glad, because I think I understand this point. All it's doing is showing how strong the institution is. And when some Democrats, and again, I'm a Democrat, lifelong, say that the solution is to add to the court with additional members or bring in other parts of the country and make them into states like D.C. or Puerto Rico. These are undemocratic impulses designed to attack the very principles that they claim to believe in, the principles of democracy. It's when they lose, they can't stand it. It also shows us the extent to which they have taken over institutions that were supposed to be neutral. So we talked yesterday about heads of agencies like the FEC, like the FCC. That Trump has the power to hire and fire. And who says that we should be governed by rules created by somebody that we didn't elect, like the chairman of the Federal Communications.
I just want to add for the record here, Abby's question. It looks like while the donation savings are contested, it's hard to get an actual number. Over year 2025 fiscally, it did not save any money. The federal government spending went up 6%, and so largely.
Scott, that's overall spending. You have to look at specifically.
What did it actually?
Look at the descriptions. It's on X. Do you want a link? Do you want me to do the heavy lifting and get you the research?
You said hundreds.
Hundreds of billions.
So
I'll get you the link. I'll get you the link. I'll put it in the chat.
I'll put a link. I'll put some links in the chat. It's just all I'm saying is that if federal spending went up, they were saying they were going to cut the deficit and the janitor. It did not. The administration did not cut either in 2025. So it did cut some jobs.
Well, Scott, if we were to take away from the budget,
it saved money. Where did it save money?
Let me get you the link. I'm going to put the link in the chat. You can see the description and the dollar amount. You can see specifically what I'm talking about. Description and dollar and date. Hello?
Covered and saved.
Yeah, let me get you the link. Link is in the chat. Coming in the chat. You can spend an hour reading all of the wasteful descriptions, all the woke spending, the DEI, CRT, BLM, climate change studies in Nairobi, in Kenya, in Sudan. It's a scam.
I'm not disagreeing. I think it was great. I think there should have been more. I just asked what the number was.
200 billion plus. Link is in the chat.
Was the biggest savings foreign spending and things like in Nairobi, or was it something domestic that was the biggest savings?
The biggest savings was transgender pirate comic books in Tierra del Fuego.
How much were we spending on that?
They just made that up.
Yeah, I figured.
It's like to make it sound the silliest spot. There was something like pretty much as if.
It looks like it's between, here's something from the University of Michigan, so it looks like, you know, when you get into the numbers, the savings is between $1 and $7 billion ultimately.
That's what I thought. I didn't think it was hundreds of billions. And where was the big savings, Scott?
This is from the University of Michigan Ford School. I'm looking, it doesn't break it down in this piece, because they're saying between $1 and $7 billion.
You know, I think the larger point, Scott, is that when you reach a level of indebtedness that the U.S. government finds itself in, you need to take a fine-tooth comb to the budget and eliminate whatever you can.
Well, yes, and also I think it's there's three things that are just, I mean, it's Medicare, Social Security, and the military, and there are things that are sacred cows, right? Because there are no votes in cutting those things, right? Old people vote, and if you cut defense, you look weak, and they say, you know, you don't want the country. So, I mean, you could cut the whole Department of Education, right? And it would be like I think 1%. You could cut HUD. That's another. Like you could cut the entire federal government outside the military. And that would still be only like 30% of the budget. I mean, I don't know what we do, because I think you just, I mean, and there's just no votes on this, right? There's no, what we need to do probably to get out of this is raise taxes and cut spending. So who gets elected by saying, I'm going to raise your taxes and you're going to get less for it? There's just no way you get elected that way.
But things are tied together, Scott, aren't they? Like the Medicare fraud. A lot of it's also tied in with some of the immigration issues that he was dealing with. I mean, so what did we see? The Somali community, they came into the country, 87% was on welfare, and now it's down to like 81%. Sorry. So that's tied in with Medicare fraud. I ate something wrong.
Well, it's a good time to probably stop talking and just relax a little. Quietness of spirit. Oh!
And Tabby's Medicare. I think there's probably a lot of ways there that we can figure it out. The military, the same thing. I mean, who hasn't heard of the $300 hammer? You know, I think there's probably a lot of ways to the military that could be ferreted out. And what I'm saying is in totality, go through everything, you know, and say, you know, we got to take this down to make it lean and mean without curtailing the functionality of it.
Okay, Abby, I put some links in the chat of those contracts in the billions that have been cut, hundreds of contracts for billions of dollars. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use AI to analyze the data.
Because they'll just pass taxes or they'll just get a new revenue stream to help everyone stack up and continue on. And this is why it becomes such a leviathan. The government becomes such a leviathan is because there's no accountability. It's honey money. It's Santa Claus, and there's no principles of anyone ever have to be held accountable for bad decision making.
Steve, when Todd Blanche comes out and says we've arrested 15 people for committing $500 million in Medicare Medicaid fraud, where are the federal employees who are being held accountable for giving out that money and cutting it to the scam artists? Where the F are the internal government employee criminals who are complicit in giving out billions to fraudsters? Who are they? Why aren't they arrested? When does it stop? Because when does the government accept accountability for servicing and giving out all this money to the fraudsters? $500 billion a year, they say, in Medicare, Medicaid. $500 billion a year, because it's a $4.2 trillion budget. That's 10% of fraud. Well, who the fuck are the federal employees at Medicare, Medicaid? Well, you know, who the fuck are they? Arrest them. Where's the accountability internally?
But look at, I mean, with fraud-based abuse, right? Let's just look at the budget right now. 62% of the budget is Medicare, Social Security, the military, and servicing the debt.
Medicare, Medicaid.
Or Medicare. No, Medicaid.
There's a big difference, and you have to be clear. Unfortunately, the words are similar.
I said Medicare. I meant Medicare. I did not mean Medicaid. Medicaid is about 800 additional million. I'm saying Medicare, Social Security, military, and servicing the debt. That does not count Medicaid. Those four categories are about 62% of the spending. So you could cut Medicaid and everything else, like every other department, like education, energy, everything. Cut it all, and you would only cut out 38%. I mean, it's still
you can't cut enough to make up the amount of money. We talked about this the other day. The math doesn't work.
Yeah, the cuts are really in the military, Medicare, and Social Security. That's where the real cuts. And you can't make those. I mean, it's just. I mean, you can cut the other stuff, which you have to put in place argument too. But that's every government. And you could cut everything, and it's only 32%. Everything. Cut every category.
By the way, within a few years, the debt servicing will start to become larger and larger and larger.
It's almost $1 trillion right now with servicing the debt.
But Scott, it becomes more than just actual numbers. It becomes a mindset. I was involved in a process one time where we was talking about, taking on a project that was well beyond the scope of the resources that we had available. The math was simple. A sixth grader could understand it. We have grown adults and people supposedly in responsible positions within. Well, yeah, that's cool.
Yes, and listen, we had a chance. I don't know how it was in 2000, was it 8 or 10? I forget when Obama had a Blue Ribbon Commission. They had Simpson Bowles, bipartisan commission, and they came out with some realistic proposals to significantly reduce, the deficit and the debt. I mean, this was a serious bipartisan commission, which both parties wanted nothing to do with it. It's just a lack of political will, right? Because it's just not popular, right? I mean, I don't think there's votes in dealing with this issue. There's votes in saying we're going to fix prices. There's votes in immigration. There's votes in there's votes in, but there's no votes in fiscal responsibility. And that's why
because John is right on something that he said. I hate to give him credit, but I got it on this one. That we haven't really arrested, and we really haven't gone out after the people that are handing out fraudulently evolved teams. And maybe some of those people don't want those to be passed and don't want those laws to happen. And that's why you're getting stuff. Also not, I don't know, Yakov, can you mute?
Oh, sorry, I was just about to tell you.
Anyway, I would go back to, this is federal, this is state, but I'd look at Minnesota, look at that governor, look at the attorney general there, look at the people that looked the other way or claimed that they were investigating, yet they have no proof of any investigation during their time period. And these people are not being arrested, people being indicted for it. They're the ball in a lot of them. But if you start really holding the officials accountable as well, as all of these recipients that fraudulently took this money, you may be stopped.
We don't just cut the whole program. Like we don't just go after the fraudulent stuff. Let's cut welfare altogether. That's still less than $1 trillion. That's less than a seventh of the whole. I'm not saying let's do more than cut the fraud. Let's cut the whole program. Let's have no more welfare.
Scott.
No more welfare. We should still be in it.
Scott, you don't need to cut the whole program. Platform it. What we need to do is shut down Medicaid and Social Security and re-platform it, because there are so many ghosts and spooks and fraudsters in the system that it's almost impossible to get them out. In Chicago, Governor Pritzker as well as Senator Durbin went to 2 local community health care clinics. I looked up how much they've year over the past 10 years. $100 million a year for a small community healthcare clinic. The CEO makes $1 million a year. It's just so much money in medicine with healthcare, the healthcare industry and healthcare executives. You really do have to shut it down because a lot of illegal aliens. They just said under Obamacare, there's like 10 without social security numbers. Kennedy just came out with that yesterday. So thank God we have Kennedy there. And really the former health secretaries that administer all this Medicare, Medicaid fraud, they're the ones who should be indicted and brought up on charges, not necessarily.
I you know that if you really want to deal with it, I don't think many people do it either party. But if you really want to deal with gas and problem, you're going to have to do radical stuff like that, and it's going to be. I mean, again, old people vote, right? So, and the second you talk about anything around Medicare and Social Security, the AARP will be working overtime to make sure your ass is primaried and you're out. And again, cutting the military. What politician can safely go and say, yeah, we really don't need this much military expenditure. We're weak on defense, you don't love the country. It's just political suicide. This is why there's no popularity for doing any of this. Right? I mean, I'm not trying to be a doom and gloom person. It's just, I just don't see politically where we have the will to deal with this. And like I said, look at Simpson Bowles. Do your research on Simpson Bowles. Those were very reasonable proposals, bipartisan. Very reasonable. No one wanted to touch Simpson Bowles. Because people they're not going to do, we're not going to do anything, and then we're going to let it collapse.
Well, Scott, to your point, I mean, you're exactly correct because the situation I just described to you, in that particular meeting we had, when I pointed out the realities of what we was getting ready to do and what was not feasible, it was like I committed some kind of treason on the group. You know, my treasonous behavior was I didn't go along with the group. I wasn't willing to compromise the financial security of the family. But yeah, you're right.
And I want to say the only thing that works, again, this doesn't work well.
This is Chicago mayoral candidate John Kitover. Go to ChicagoMayorVote.com. Sign our petition to be on the ballot. Vote for us February 23rd, 2027. Team Kitover. We are going to liberate the city of Chicago. Day number 1, we're going to cut property taxes 25% for every single homeowner in the city. 25% at a minimum. Day number 2, we are going to rip out every single concrete bike lane in the whole city, restore traffic flow, and let businesses have parking so they can survive. We're also going to sue Abu Dhabi. The city of Chicago is going to sue the city of Abu Dhabi, the investment authority, and Rahm Emanuel. Sorry, Rahm, we're throwing you under the bus, and we're suing you too. We're including you in the fraud criminal lawsuit. Like this video, share this video if you've enjoyed what you've heard here today. We are eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse and exposing the communist thieves, scammers who go by pluralism and progressivism, but are stealing from pensions, using grants to steal. Go to ChicagoMayorVote.com. See, a lot of...
I've often had a simple and fun. There's a lot to be said for divided and government.
See, a lot...
I mean, the founders didn't imagine a partisan structure. They thought that the branches themselves would check each other, right? But now that with partisanship, which happened pretty quick to see in the election of 1800, the only way that the branches check each other is when they're of opposing parties. Right, so I mean, it function. I don't love it, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of the only way you do get a functional check and balance. Because when Congress is and the president are the same party, they don't get adversarial, right? Very rare that they're adversarial. If you're a guy, there's no checks and balances.
Well, when things get so extreme, there is this collective unconscious desire to create an equilibrium and a balance. To me, the debt is so catastrophic that it's unfathomable that we are, as a nation, federally $200 trillion in debt. The state of Illinois is $200 billion in debt. The city of Chicago is $100 billion in debt. And when you total up all the state debt and all the city municipal debt and add that to the federal funded and unfunded debt, it's so fucking huge that it's mind-boggling, but rolls downhill. And if you USDebtClock.org and you look at all the other national debts like Japan and England and China and India, we are like 50-60% of the world's global debt. The fact that we are even pulling this off is remarkable, because if the rest of the world ditched fiat currency and just went strictly gold, silver, platinum, etc., then we would be in a serious fucking financial meltdown where, because we have no industry, no actual manufacturing, and we're just a service-based economy riddled with debt, the fact that the world is still consuming our debt is fucking, we're lucky. Anyways, all this, the reality that we're living in is all because of 1945, the victory in Europe, and the success, actually also the success of the collapse of the Soviet Union, which has allowed us to project our debt onto the world and our own internal currency. When Trump says China is a currency manipulator, we're the biggest currency manipulator on the planet. So if you don't pronounce moral judgment and say, okay, we have to accurately describe the situation, as opposed to just talking about LGBTQ, DEI, CRT, BLM rights all day, every day, or Carmelo Anthony, let's just put it out there that most of the communication that you will hear on this app is a waste of your time, and it's all spam. It's not prioritized communication. And having worked in the federal government for over 20 years at the Army and at the Treasury Department, the internal communication that they put out to employees wastes all their fucking productivity and time. I had to sit through LGBTQ trans awareness training at the IRS. And they have an employee and an office with 12 employees dedicated to teaching internal LGBTQ etiquette. Is that not a waste of your taxpayer dollars? People are going to work 3 out of 5 days a year to fund phony Fugazi medical care facilities where the CEO makes $1 million a year and they have a $100 billion budget. And there's dozens of them in every single city. If the American populace really knew how the federal dollars and your state dollars were being spent, there would be an armed revolution. There would have to be, because no one wants to go to work 3 to 4 out of 5 days a week to fund the government's debt. Eventually, there will come a conflict, and truth will out, and the citizens will revolt, because the system actually is completely bankrupt. Without federal bankruptcy, instead of kicking the can and creating a tax debt service slave system, where's McZed? Is McZed still here? Because McZed could teach us what the Torah tells us about the debt jubilee. I never seen a federal debt jubilee. Have you? Hello?
Are you talking the 7-year or the 50-year? At least the 50, right?
Well, 7 or 50, it doesn't matter. Have you ever heard the federal government ever say, hey, we're going to issue a proclamation with a military upbringing? And I was brought up on sexual harassment charges in college because I said the girls here are too ugly to auction off in a date auction. They tried to kick me out of the school because I insulted the beauty of the few women in the school. And what I'm trying to say is I was granted a reprieve, or what's it called when a general says there is a blanket pardon for everybody, all the punishments will be suspended. I can't remember the name of it. Anyways, I'm just saying there's a specific term when they grant a generalized suspension. Amnesty. I was the recipient of an amnesty. Thank God for amnesty. We need a debt amnesty in this country. We have to. And the thing is, it's going to destroy Wall Street. Banks will go insolvent if we do it. And so the system is one huge unified financial system. The banks are legacy services and products. The new service and product is Google. It's Meta. It's Apple. It's NVIDIA. That's the real economy. These banks are so legacy, but we're spending $1.2 trillion a year on debt interest expense payments. $100 billion a month. The taxpayers and the government have to kick over to the banks, and it's not going down, it's only going up. And every major city is involved in the same fucking debt interest expense payments. Hello?
By the way, it's Leviticus. Where it's the 50-year Jubilee. 7 times 7.
That was my purpose for 7 times 1.
7 times plus 1, right?
Plus 1.
Why 1?
Because it's every 50 years, and it's the Shemitah is 7 years, so it's 7 times 6 is 49. And then on the 50th year, so at the conclusion of that 49-year cycle, then you have the overall.
Did the land go back to
Yeah.
original?
The original hereditary heirs.
I remember studying that in day school.
That's not the Orthodox Church adopted also.
Oh, really? Scott can tell us about the church.
Yes. Most colleges have to go to generations, so it's pretty great. It's pretty radical, right?
See, the giveaway or the tell is when you listen to AOC, Mamdani, Kamala, they never criticize the Federal Reserve and our fiat debt currency system because they know that is their piggy bank. And without that piggy bank, they can never achieve what they want to achieve. And the Federal Reserve says we're partisan and we will do whatever Congress tells us to do. We will put it in our financial models. They will wire transfer back for hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars to create liquidity at the major financial institutions. That's the way the government and banks and the Federal Reserve are creating all this debt, which is literally just a wire transfer from the Federal Reserve to the major financial institutions, which use it to purchase junk debt. This is what I read in Financial Times. And if anybody else has an explanation for the way the government is creating all this debt, I'd be happy to hear your explanation. Okay, great. No dispute. I see. Well, the Federal Reserve is self-funded, and they pay their own pension, and they don't need the Treasury to give them dollars because they have the monopoly on the currency creation scam. And thank God we have a new Federal Reserve chairman, but look at Lisa Cook, our president, our George Washington. He can't even fire a federal employee at the Federal Reserve, Lisa Cook. He can't get rid of her. How the fuck can our president?
May make that a little bit easier. It doesn't extend to the reserve, I believe, because that's already been settled. But it did change the FTC. But it's not BlackRock that's buying all the debt. I think you're overstretching it.
I'm not saying only BlackRock. I'm saying there's 10 major financial asset management institutions, State Street, Bloomberg, etc. It's just the top 10, which
investors are 30%. U.S. mutual funds like Vanguard, other places, they're 30%. U.S. households are 20%. Banks are probably at most 15%. The Fed buys its own notes, which is kind of intriguing. They're at 20%.
I know they have mechanisms and levers and buttons to push to control the economy, which is primarily the fixed interest rate. You know,
it's usually the loan loss reserve. the thing that really helps.
It's the interest rate, my friend. You don't understand economics. It is the interest rate. And we could have a negative interest rate in this country if we wanted to. But instead, we always keep it at this 2 to 4. You know, in Europe, during the 2008 financial crisis or during the COVID-19 financial crisis, European countries actually had a negative interest rate. So if you put your money in the bank, you had to pay the bank to put your money in the bank, a percentage, a negative interest rate. And they were even issuing mortgages with negative interest rates, meaning they were giving the houses away, but not here in America. And so hopefully they will lower the interest rate. Obviously, it's not just the interest rate, but the interest rate is, let's say, 80%. Oh, okay, Jacob. Well, let me actually prove to everybody in the room how little you know. Tell us how inflation occurs in our economy, Jacob. Go ahead. In just 3 sentences. Let's hear it. Go ahead, doctor.
There are 2 mechanisms.
Go ahead,
The general reserve has, which is the discount rate, and the loan loss reserve, which affects the M0 line.
It fascinates me the number of people on this app that just can't be nice. Like Johnny, can't you just talk nicely? Like, it's very interesting. I don't know. Like, why can't we just address each other with charity and kindness? I mean, John, you do all this spiritual reading. Meditation, why doesn't that translate into a more charitable attitude toward your fellow man?
What's so funny about people? You know, charity and kindness is how much stripper is.
They are, you know, it's funny, Norm, there was this Father Devon, I don't know if you ever heard of who he was. George. Really, right? And all his followers, I had a Miss Charity that worked as our cleaning lady. There was Miss Righteousness. I mean, they had all those names. They would change their name to it, all his followers. Do you remember that, Rich?
Underestimate the power of the intangible noun as a name.
You remember Father Enya?
Yeah, why is that familiar? Father Enya.
I want to start a trend of negative intangible nouns. Like, why does anybody name their kid Dallas? Those are great names. Those are great intangible nouns. You're powerful, right? Very strong, power.
How about that bitch that put it back on her forehead tattoo?
That's crazy. You know, it's fucking sick. Every time someone makes love to her, they're gonna have to look at her.
It's complex. It's going to get that much action.
Yeah, I think the reason you get that tattoo is you look in the mirror with it. It's like, I'm never getting great. That's seriously what's going on.
Yeah, she was pretty. She was. What did the guy do there?
It's fucking. Do you think a little going to a tattoo parlor and then you decide to meet her, you know what you're doing, and you do it of your own free will, you're not drunk, you're not high, this is what you want. This is you can't get, you know.
Yakov, I have my social security card tattooed on my arm, and the tattoo artist said, "Are you sure you want to do this?" I said, "Yeah, I'm 100% sure. Go ahead, tattoo my social security card on my arm." And, you know, I was recently at a cannabis dispensary, and the cashier said, "Is that your motherfucking social security card tattooed on your fucking arm?" I said, "Yeah."
I want to PTR this. I want to see this.
I said, "Yeah." I said, "That's my social security card tattooed on my arm." I was like, what is the weirdest artistic symbol that I could put on my body for the sake of art? And she said, "And you chose your social security card?" I said, "Yeah, baby. Everybody seems to want one. Hello?"
Did anyone see the Mets player who has a bunch of Hebrew?
Yes.
Means nothing. It's like gibberish word. And the closest anyone has come to try to figure that out is trying to write Flintons.
Who was the player that had that?
You know, not big baseball fan. I just saw the story.
Anytime you're taking something to
Hold on, I'll look here.
Yeah, those. So he actually has Faye, Mama, Faye, not even enough some people and then it has 4.6, which makes it.
You know, if we have nothing to fear about the future, I believe that. However, it's still a question of which economic model leads to more abundance statistically for everyone. Is it laissez-faire capitalism, which is the separation of state and capital, or is it this communist, socialist, pluralistic, liberal, progressive, democrat, communist model? Which one statistically gives everybody more? It's obviously the laissez-faire capital. It's not the state-controlled communism and corporate fascism model. It's not. Hello?
Well, there is no laissez-faire capitalism, right? I mean, there's to a lesser, greater degree, fixed economies. Like there's no unregulated
guardrails. Yeah,
there's no libertarian fantasy.
John, that is quite the tattoo. What's the quote below it? And that looks like a typewriter font. How many domains do you have for your campaign? Yeah.
I saw a very disturbing video yesterday of hundreds of young Chinese girls in front of webcams in a park, and they spend 8 hours a day on a live stream for one meal. They make enough to have one meal, and that's all they earn. And that's because the Chinese government doesn't have a USAID to scam and fraud, and the Social Security and the Medicare, Medicaid to fraud the taxpayers, to keep them future tax slaves. The Chinese government is ruthlessly efficient, and they don't have fraud, and they execute their political criminal fraudsters. Execute. So,
and let's say I agree with you, but hold on, I'm an honest, sincere question. It's very easy to be snarky, and it's very easy to criticize governments, but can you be very, very clear? If you were put in charge of China, if you were the benevolent, Menschkeit, altruistic dictator of China, be specific. What would you do to run China so that women had better career options in that?
I'd create more casinos. I'd expand Macau. I'd create more a happier lifestyle for a lot of them.
You know, in the Macau casinos, you can't use Macau money.
I know.
That's so strange.
I'd create. I mean, so many Chinese have to travel to get out of their rut, and they don't. In terms of vacation spots and recreation, I'd create more recreation in China.
Thank you. I appreciate that, but I in addition to that, I'd like to hear from Mike Rand.
I'm sorry, Andrew. Can you succinctly ask your question in one sentence? Thank you.
Yes. I have stated for 6 years on Clubhouse, I've been remarkably consistent for 6 years, that the states created an incredible society. And by the way, he was not a slave to libertarians. He violated a lot of libertarianism. He created his own ideology, and every ideology in the world can find something to be angry about. But for me, I admire him. And I'll come right out and say, and I'm trying to be succinct, if I was put in charge of China, I would simply emulate him. There is no variation between how I would run China and how he ran Singapore.
Show talking about how he dealt with corporate gridlock and how executives were refusing to budge. And it was through the will of his personality and his demeanor and his interest and his attention and love. That guy was a force of will. And he always did the right thing. He was that benevolent, altruistic dictator, but not a charlatan altruist. And the Kamala Harris's the Mamdani, the AOC, there's just so many fraudster altruists out there that that's what's hello. So, anyways, Andrew, I mean, I can't answer your question about what would I do if I was the leader of China. It would be basically I would do nothing other than read the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu and know that there's not a speck of dust out of place in the whole universe. I mean, I don't know all the internal fraud and crime and despair in China. I mean, I've read there's 30 million people living in caves, 1.4 billion people throw themselves out of windows in Apple factories. But here in America, whether you're jumping out of an Apple factory or getting lit on fire on a train by an African American that's been arrested 75 times but yet is not deemed a domestic terrorist, we have different problems throughout the world based on our values. And that's why Ayn Rand is so important. Many people here on this app have simply given up reading books. All they do is to come here and to talk endlessly to get their dopamine, and then they leave and go about their day, but they do not read a fucking thing. I'm sure some people on this stage don't read a fucking thing. And I asked a hot Jewish chick that I know, when was the last time you read a book? She said it's been 20 fucking years. And I gotta say, she's one of the dumbest people I've ever met, and that's why she has no kids. It's because she has no values or education or knowledge or wisdom or intelligence or information to run her fucking operating system, which is your fucking brain and your body. And so all I'm trying to say is that Ayn Rand, the objective ethicist versus the altruists, these altruists today are dumber than they've ever been before. It's only through knowledge and wisdom can we solve the problems. And that means just patching the wall, preventing the leaks and plugging the holes. But these people want to take an act to a legacy system of hundreds of years of culminating in work and saving, and they want to rip that fucking wall down and flood the whole system. We're never going to let that happen because we have the Second Amendment and we have the freedom of speech. However, censorship on platforms does not allow dissenting voices to counteract the propaganda put out by the liberal, progressive, pluralists, and LGBTQ, DEI, CRT scam artists. You can't voice concern. You can't criticize it. You are censored and deleted from all the platforms. I am complete.
Singapore, I think, when it was founded, was like less than 2 million people.
You know what? I reject the idea that.
I'm just saying things scale differently.
No, I'm talking about being respectful. I'm being succinct. I totally reject. Okay. I'm going to be succinct, Yaakov. I reject the idea just because it's small that you can't apply that lesson to a billion-person country. I'm done speaking, Yaakov.
There's also some issues with Singapore doing business there. I mean, and it's also culturally how that population is. It's not a population that, I mean, if you could tell me how many startups and, what ingenuity is coming out of Singapore, I don't, they have the craziest legal system there, just crazy. There are things that are illegal that make no sense. I mean, you could just Google like the 10 or 12 crazy laws of Singapore, and
your gum on the floor.
It's not just the gum. I mean, it's insane. If you are on the subway there, and you have a cup of coffee from Starbucks, you can get arrested for carrying a liquid drink in the subway if you don't flush your toilet in a public restroom. And they're so hung up on keeping that, that country, and it is a small area, so controlled. And then the lashing that you get, I mean, that still exists. So it wasn't an American kid that it was caned, not lashed, caned. Yeah, I mean, but it's not although it's a very wealthy country, you don't see tons of companies coming on NASDAQ as great ingenuity or anything that's really creating a growth environment. That's just my thoughts on it.
If you get caned in Singapore, do you have to tip the guy like you would a dominatrix?
Or you pay in advance for the hospital bill.
You know, prostitution's legal there, but pornography is not. Like, it's just the weirdest laws. It's a little crazy.
Well, Abby, do you believe in capital punishment in America? Because I could list 20 examples.
I absolutely believe in capital punishment.
Okay, great. So why are we housing?
Absolutely believe in it.
Why are we housing domestic terrorists and mass murderers at over 100,000 a year when we could simply execute them? Why?
I believe in it. I think we should. A lot of fun. You go to the Mob Museum. You can sit in an electric chair and go see it. See the old way.
Did you discuss the decision?
Yeah, we talked about the decision. We talked about a little bit about the two decisions. We talked about the gender and sports decision and also about citizenship. We have not talked about the finance. We haven't talked about the finance decision, which is an interesting one also.
I read Slaughter and I read.
What do you think of Slaughter?
That's the FTC one? Yeah. I want to see the original way that Congress created the FTC because I didn't see that Mickey even spoke about it all in the decision. But I actually.
What was the finance one? I've read the three, but not.
It's opened up the door to be able to contribute. What was it? Yeah, it was run by the R's, but it benefits the T's and the R's. Both being able to contribute.
What was your
amongst people in here?
I mean, it's pretty clear the 14th Amendment.
What was the ruling?
They went on constitutional grounds.
Yeah. It's very
clear.
Actually, 14th Amendment is part of the Constitution. Case closed.
No, I mean, it really goes back to 15th century, maybe 17th century. Who's a sovereign who's a subject of the sovereign, and it builds from there. I actually thought the legal arguments of the dissent were better. The part that gets me on birthright citizenship is the precedent. We have like 150 years of precedent that it's just there. Like even if you think you're wrong, that's a lot of precedent.
Well,
Congress twice, right, enacted legislation around it.
Abby,
Congress affirmed what's the name of that case?
Juan Gonzalez. Abby, I gotta push back. I have to say that your criticism of our founding fathers and calling them donkey mules.
Dissent with a dissent and a concurrence. Was that Kavanaugh? Can't remember.
Abby, why were you saying the founding fathers of America were just shitty farmers and not intellectuals? I mean, do you know how stupid that sounds?
What are you talking about?
You said earlier that the founding fathers of America were just farmers, and the Constitution is a simple document. It's such a simple document. Oh, it's so simple to understand. A dummy could understand it.
John. That's where that came from.
And Kavanaugh was the most interesting. Kavanaugh disagreed with the constitutional reading and said that there's a law, which I'm not going to remember or know, that affirmed Park Gumwalk, and therefore he kicked it back to Congress, but he's not a majority on this one.
No, but I agree with him. I think that would have been the right way to go, to not make it constitutional, but to kick it back to Congress and let Congress decide on this. I wish they had done that, but I don't think it leaves the door open for that.
I don't think so. I think the only remedy now is a constitutional amendment, which is my preference. I just don't think it's politically possible.
Do you think it's too political an issue to give it to Congress?
I think Congress will do actually do their jobs. Yeah. I don't think Congress will sign their name onto anything that actually does something.
Did you read the geofencing ruling?
No, I only read those few. And I said I didn't read the rest.
Essentially, they kicked it back down and did not hold geofencing types of data collection, I should say. Said they must, of course, satisfy Fourth Amendment probable cause and particularity of the warrant.
Hey, Abby, since you're such a...
Some of the first digital rights thing in a while.
That's going to open, I don't want to say power, but importance to some of the NGOs that are doing some of that and feeding it into the feds.
Abby, since you're such a constitutional scholar, I got a question for you, Abby.
Oh,
How many...
I thought it was one of them.
Abby, here's a trivia question for you. How many times does the Constitution mention the word God, and how many times does the Declaration of Independence mention the word God? Hello? Hey, Ferg! Ferg! Go on mute, Ferg! Ferg! Go on mute! The question was, how many times is the word God mentioned in the Constitution and in the Declaration of Independence? Hello?
1 and 2.
Wrong.
Just answered you.
Wrong. The Declaration of Independence.
Doesn't it say creator?
Ding, ding, ding!
That's where I'm from.
Ding, ding, ding! The Creator. Ding, 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 ding! The Constitution contains 0 direct mentions of God, while the Declaration of Independence references the divine 4 times, using the words nature's God, Creator, Supreme Judge of the world, and Divine Providence.
John, slow it down.
Yeah, but they weren't like secularists, they were pluralists. They wanted to cover everyone's notion of God.
They're Freemasons? Hello?
Americans.
Well, the Freemasons take all world religions. You only have to acknowledge God.
Okay.
No, a supreme entity.
Oh, well, then that would be a certain type of...
What about where it says in the year of the Lord, when it's signed at the end of the Constitution? Is that God? Just asking.
That's referencing the Christian deity. Hello? You know, our founders love Jesus. They love Jesus. And many people today love Jesus. And even the Jews, in many ways, love Jesus because he was Jewish.
Speak for yourself, John.
I'm just saying, you can't deny that 1 billion people love the word Jesus. And 1 billion people love the word Muhammad. Allah. You know, they love the sound of that word, Muhammad and Allah. Just like how Christians love Jesus. And for Jews, they love Moshe. Moses.
No, just like normal talking to you. Can we go back to the normal, John? Because we can go back to this conversation. Try
I'm sorry. I didn't know you were a moderator, Abby. It's just not every day I get to speak to an attorney on a social audio chat.
Anyway, so
I apologize. Hello?
What else did you read the Slaughter case? Did you?
I only read Slaughter and birthright citizen, so I have nothing else intelligent to say. And I heard a commentary on Cubs, but I have nothing else intelligent to say on those.
Well, I don't know if you saw, but a blue-haired congresswoman is very upset because grants are no longer being given out by the federal government in the way that the Democrats are used to the grants being given out in the hundreds of millions, in the billions. So did anybody see that change? I think it was with the Office of Management Budget. Did anybody see that news tidbit today? Sorry to introduce a non-SCOTUS ruling topic. I know you guys are trying to stay focused here. You guys hear the one about Lisa Cook when they finally tell her to pack her fucking box and get the fuck out of the office? She's gonna walk out of the Federal Reserve and be like, oh, I'm gonna sue them motherfuckers! I'm gonna sue them all! I'm gonna sue them motherfuckers!
I ask our two esteemed moderators if either of them have spent substantial time in Singapore.
I just have two friends that I've known for 30 years from there.
And how often do they go there? I don't know if it's a Singapore focused room. I'm just asking, Yakov.
I met them in business school 35 years ago. They're nationals of Singapore. They live there. Oh, I have a third one. Works at an American who works for Dell in Singapore.
So I think Singapore is very boring to most people, so I'll be succinct, Yakov. But the reason why I admire Singapore so much is for people that have children and grandchildren, it is the one and only place in the world where you can move with your kids and know that they're not going to take drugs. Singapore has no drugs, and they have the most effective drug ban of any country. And although I love Israel, and Israel's a great country, one of the big negatives to Israel is all kinds of drugs are freely available. And people that make Aliyah and move to Israel do have a real risk of their kids and grandkids taking drugs. So that is one strong argument in favor of people moving to Singapore versus Israel. Respectfully, Yakov.
Yeah, I get it. No, I admire Singapore too. It's a very interesting place.
Maybe some future room we'll discuss it, but I suspect knowing if we should in this room, so I'm going to the audience for a while.
I'm looking for a conversation with Ross Staff on the Supreme Court where this guest, this Isgard, talks about, I can't find it, which basically she talks about not the sort of okay, here it is. Alright, we'll still there. That's a spectral well. It's temperamental. It seems more than 8. So she talks about, the differences 3 years and 2 8 1 5 4. The axis said, so she says, yeah, you got the 8 in. And so Ross said, Marcus, she's the large majority of the world. There's far less likely than simple concurrences of the book using candidates in law. Justice King did this whole concurrence in the head. Like concurrence in the head, I never thought I would share. She can use the very idea about those concurrences. More institutions, my God, institutions, more essentially the cat. Further Justice Gorsuch is the great concurrent after all. And after, of course, the great dissenter, John Marshall Poe. They're always quite separately, and they're obviously one place. They're very much not present. But these guys decide it's one of them. This is where I think everything is these days. They're very much not the institution. Again, and that legitimate bad decisions that take into account all sorts of things like the job, there's obviously institutions and institutions. Besides the end, those are my low institutions. And then she's got like real institutions. That is true. How do you like? The rest of the activists in Clubhouse are going to green bean them right away.
Oh no.
Uncle Steve, my man, what's happening, buddy?
Good morning. I'm just doing some end of the month billing and checking in. Glad you guys are all doing fine.
What do you think of the Supreme Court's decision there, Uncle Steve, about maintaining birthright citizenship?
I'm just looking that over right now for the first time. I'm scanning down, trying to find if there were the three dissenting opinions. I know it was 6-3.
Rabboni Shalom, if you know, we almost had a minion going. Rabboni Shalom, you know, Steve, do you think that today's SCOTUS rulings are in line with the American value system?
Does anybody on stage offhand know what a recap of the three dissenting opinions or no?
I do not.
Gotcha.
No, just majority. I know.
I'm good. How are you?
Okay.
So how does the anchor baby system work for the parents? Because if you're automatically an American at birth, you know, what is the liability for the government and for society for those parents?
Should be zero liability.
Well, there should be, but now they have an American child. Well, if they now have an American child, they can now make legal or illegal arguments. I'm just saying, how do we deal with it now, legally, you know, and for the past 10 years? Is there going to be a change? Because I see immigration attorney advertisements all the time. Steve here has filed $1 billion in, you know, disability income claims with the federal government. He knows how to build the system. And even right now, he just said he's working on his billing. So I'm just wondering, if you're a parent to an anchor baby from Mexico, you know, are they working on their billing? Hello? Who's going to be a citizen after today? Oh, such a confounding question.
I have a polite question for our beloved Uncle Steve. And please feel free not to answer. Steve, how much of your legal practice involves interactions between employees and their employers versus interactions between people and the government?
People in the government is nothing, zero. Well, wait a minute, hold on a second. That's not true. If you consider the Employment Development Department, I deal with that. If you consider unemployment, I deal with that. But generally, I don't represent either the government or employees of the government.
Okay, so since this is a small room, I have an honest question for you, and I ask that you not be offended by this. Have you ever met a libertarian person who believes it is best for everyone in society if there are no employment laws, and if you have a society with strict employment at will, ability to fire employees at any time for any reason with no challenges at all, and an end to the whole concept of employment discrimination? Now, the theory behind total employment at will is it allows employers to take risks with employees that look on paper shitty, but you're willing to take a risk, hire 50 shitty employees to find the one good one. I understand. I'm not a retard. I know that if you were living in such a system, most of your income would go away. Most of your legal practice involves disputes between employees and employers. So the current system in California, which allows employees to pay for 100 different reasons, it's very good for no financial institutions. I wonder that an honest, sincere person that said that system which enriches you personally actually is bad for society.
Okay, since it's a small room and I'm not offended and I would love to answer all of your questions, but you literally asked like 7 questions, so could you go over it again just one by one and I'll be happy to answer them all. Is that okay?
If I said
hold on. Sorry about that. The sound came on. Okay, firstly, the hold on. The answer to your first question, yes, I've met libertarians that think government should be basically eliminated. Okay, so what's the second question?
So that there were never lawsuits between employees elected to
employment at will. Okay, in California, we currently have at-will employment. So it doesn't matter how much of my income is based on if, who, what, when, where. The fact of the matter is we have at-will employment, and I am in favor of at-will employment. But just remember, at-will employment does not mean you can discriminate or violate the Constitution. So I'm in favor of at-will employment.
But not everyone is at-will.
Unless you have a personal services contract, or you have a contractual agreement that's specifically not at will. That's right. Basically, everyone in California is an at-will employee. That's correct. Okay. If that was a question for me, I couldn't hear it. Okay.
Thank you for your answer, Steve. No further questions.
Sure. No problem. Always happy to help. No problem.
I'm gonna do some things. I'll see you later. Bye, Steve. Bye, everybody else.
Hey, take care. Take care.
And I can't.
Great morning by Yakov. It's been a marathon run today, Steve.
Okay. Sounds good.
Are you ready for the weekend? Are you ready to
Not only am I ready for the weekend, Scott, but I got a new cord for my audio interface, so the quality of the sound is now a lot better. It wasn't the audio interface, it was the cord. It's not perfect, but it's a hell of a lot better now. Yay.
I love my audio interface. I have a Focusrite Solo. It's great. Very clean sound.
That's what I have. I have a Focusrite 2x2.
Yeah, the Solo is the same. It just has one play. Yeah, Focusrite's great. It's so clean.
It's great. Yeah, so clean.
And I like that you can. I mean, I have USB and XLR on my mic, but the thing is about my XLR, the XLR you can do more stuff. Like you can do some like you can make it bassy or make it, but it's kind of a pain. I just like the clean sort of thing. I like the volume knob. I like that you can easily screw with the gain. It's a beautiful piece of equipment.
So how is Club Deck lately?
Works for me, I'll tell you, it works for me.
Good. Yeah, so I was just, as I was coming in, I was going down the opinion very, very quickly on the birthright citizenship because I'll just do a filter sequence search to see if I can get the dissenting opinions, see what they say.
Alan, I thought that was an interesting discussion earlier on the simplicity of the Constitution and the complexity. I mean, that was good. I think hermeneutics is pretty complicated.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's even if you want to say the Constitution itself, the document, was written for simple understanding. Even if you want to say that, clearly not how we've treated.
Well, as I was saying, I think the economy of language actually makes the complexity. It's the simplicity that makes the complexity, right?
I agree totally.
If you look at the Indian's Constitution in modern way, it's so long. It sounds like everything out, right? I mean, the founders chose a document that leaves a lot to be interpreted.
Did you see? There's this new little series on I don't know how many episodes it's going to be on HBO. It's Larry David.
I have not watched it yet.
Oh my God, the first one is so funny. They're at the Constitutional Congress or whatever, and the Livingston is the character that he's playing, who like penned some other things in the Bill of Rights. He's like, no sharing of umbrellas. No sharing desserts. That's right.
I think the Constitution had to be made as simple as possible for the purpose of making it a living and breathing document. If you made it too complicated and too specific, it would fail to be a living and breathing document. That's my humble opinion.
100%.
And as I've said many times before, I like the Constitution being a living and breathing document.
You know, I had a professor in seminary who sits down and watches this. He's an ethics professor. He says, yeah, I have the best senator in the world, but Abington Press. You know, she's great, but she's tough. It's brutal. You know, you're so committed to your tax. Your words are great, and she's just saying, this has got to go, this has got to go, this has got to go. What God needed was my editor at Abington Press. We've got Congress, you don't need this 6-7 chapters of books. God should bring for Abington Press. I think he was trying to get a rise out of me.
I think that's true of the entire Jewish tradition. We are terrible editors. We are amazing collectors and traumatizers. New glasses right now. It's time for new frames.
Yeah, I just want to. It's like this artificial kind of that's very cool. I don't really want that.
No, it doesn't stretch as long a time period.
December 23rd, 2027 election. Your vote. Petition now. Like this video, share this video. I'm on a podcast right now. We're talking about liberal progressivism, pluralism, Democrat radicals, bankruptcy, and stealing. We're not going off the man from America.
Or USAID in the State Department refusing to report to the State Department.
On to the city of Chicago. On to there are two kinds of underfunded plans. Until we can delete those polls from our profile when we want, I purposely do not vote
Scott, maybe you can eliminate the word automatically.
It's a good question. Okay, that's it. It's a possibility.
Just a maybe.
Yeah, my Chicago mayoral candidate running in the November 23rd, 2027 election. I need your vote. I need your signature.
You know, I found that most of the time when people want to ask a question,
Looking for fight.
and they have to
Alright, it's looking pretty cool so far.
before the question is actually asked.
It's a lot better than
One
France.
involves multiple questions in one shot, as evidenced a few minutes ago. Gene, I think you just came in during that, I think.
Steve, I voted the way I did because I knew the result was pretty.
How did you vote? I didn't see how you voted. How did you vote?
I voted that they should be allowed in
Yeah, sure.
because the Supreme Court said they should, so you can't change.
I'm going to see if ChatGPT has the answer. Yeah, especially since it was litigated 100 years ago, the exact same issue, yes.
So I read today that the idea of the jurisdiction clause was meant to sort of cover diplomats, or that they're not under the jurisdiction of the United States government because they're embassies or foreign sovereigns. So I don't know how that works. Like, just sort of if a diplomat has a kid, okay, you say that the Dutch ambassador or the ambassador of France has a kid here, is that kid a citizen?
Yes or no? Yes, no. That's the exception, I believe.
Interesting. Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought today when I read it. But
Okay, so hey, government is here. But let's talk to the language because everybody here seems to vote pretty strongly that the son of a Russian spy that become a citizen, we could become president of the United States in 35 years.
they started a Russian one.
Well, let's say Putin's daughter came to the United States and under a diplomatic passport gave birth. 35 years later, that child would be president of the United States, even if it went back to Russia and was raised in Russia.
I got that possible.
That's the entailment of everybody that voted here, that children born in the United States should be citizens.
Okay. Justice Thomas argued that the citizenship clause should be interpreted according to its original public meaning in 1868, contended that the phrase subject to the jurisdiction requires more than simply being born on U.S. soil, maintained that children born to parents who lack permanent answer. Children of diplomats, party diplomats, and their children are exempt.
Will the diplomat be expelled?
To repeat that.
Will the diplomat be expelled from the country?
I guess so.
No clue here. Just around for the answer. You don't know.
Yes, that's going to be expelled from the country.
Okay, so diplomats can be expelled. Is that a legal process?
If you're asking
Revoked or diplomatic qualifications is
that illegal?
I think they sent a letter to the embassy in question.
Yes, they have the legal right to do that. Is there a law that says they can do that?
I just think it's customary and traditional procedure to there's a specific U.S. law. What I'm aware of.
Is there a law that says diplomats are immune?
Yes, the answer is yes. They have diplomatic immunity. Yeah.
So you can cite the law with statutes. What number is it? What registry does it sit in?
It's not a U.S. registry. It's not a code of federal regulations.
Diplomats are immune. It's not the U.S. law.
I'll get to the exact reference one second. The Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations of 1961 and divorce in 1964. U.S. ratified it.
And to exit a foreign diplomat from the United States, the U.S. government must declare the individual element persona non grata and withdraw their diplomatic accreditation. This revokes their diplomatic immunity and requires them to leave the country within 72 hours.
So my reading touched that they included in the elections. I appreciate
your feedback. a distinction.
That's the thing. There's a person who is subject to the jurisdiction is different than a person who's not subject.
All I know is I've lived in prosecutors. It's the extent of my legal knowledge on the subject.
Yeah, that's about exactly the same extent of my knowledge on the topic.
Saturday daytime clubhouse circle now. Just sound of the problems in the world. The sound of silence in the ocean smells like victory. I have something interesting about my citizenship. There was a spy, Russian spies, and they had to go back. They were born in 2010. The children had to go back to, and they had to relearn Russian. They didn't speak Russian for fear of tipping off their spy activities. Anyone following the war in Ukraine?
I gotta go, guys. Take care.
Someone talks about we're not gonna feel right. That's good one yourself. Everyone's favorite. You're a Republican? Yeah. A moderate one. Don't work in the Republican Party. It was such a inside joke, Marshall. Oh. Went right over my head. Well, I'm glad the Supreme Court decided the way they did. That staves off that stuff for another day.
Why, how did they punt?
No, I didn't say they put that. I said it staves it off for another day. Like, there'll be another time that somebody will challenge it. At least now the challenge has been declined.
What was the number? Was it a 6-3?
6-3.
Yeah, it was a 6-3.
Running in the February 23rd, 2027 election. I need your vote. I need your
Signature petition now. Like this video, share this video. I'm on a podcast right now. We're talking about liberal progressivism, pluralism, Democrat radicals, bankrupting and stealing from Chicago and from America.
Or U.S.
I would have bet the opposite.
Yeah, my John Kitover, Chicago mayoral champion.
Steve Crumb did a room on this 3 or 4 months ago, and he called it the exact order in which he said the justices are going to align that line.
I like the summarization. I don't know which news outlet had it, but Robert said, the executive order talks about fathers and mothers and this and that. It's just not in the language of the amendment. It has no applicability or something to that effect.
Hey Ben, you're a practicing lawyer. What did you think of this? I imagine you probably haven't had time to read it yet, aside from the summary. But were you happy with the decision?
I think the court just really this doesn't change my view of in general how this court generally has been ruling cases, but in this one I think they just have so little to go on in order to rule for the executive order in terms of they were trying to get the clause of subject to the laws of the United States.
Yeah, my John Kitover, Chicago mayoral candidate running in the February 23rd, 2027 election. I need your vote. Democrat radicals, bankrupting and stealing from Chicago and from America.
Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. Every outside, there's an inside. Every inside, there's an outside.
Come to Dubai. Already spending more money on pensions than any other state. So how do you say let things get so bad? Here's how.
Birth of tourism, if you will. And so it's a different world. And Robert said, well, it is a different world. The same constitution. So it's clear to me that, for those so-called conservatives that are believing in originalism, as in breathing, living constitution, the words the Solicitor General or the government had any really good reply or come back to that statement. Even Trump himself couldn't really refuse to admit the possibility that he would lose. I think he says so after in an interview after the oral argument. He even got up and left, I think. So yeah, I haven't had a chance. What would be interesting to me is there's like a 91-page dissent. It just really, before even I read the opinion, the whole thing, it sort of subconsciously or subtly affirmed my opinion that Alito and Thomas, they're really not playing their role.
Chicago mayoral candidate running in the February 23rd, 2027 election.
These guys have agenda, have
they're being activists.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're being activists, on what they should. I was not really earlier, where somebody was like, why didn't the Supreme Court correct the Congress? And it's somebody who's a conservative, and I didn't get the chance to say, because we're not supposed to legislate from the bench. You're just supposed to look at it and say what the Constitution says. You're not supposed to write law for Congress.
Yeah, that. Even if I'm just reading the opinions all the way from the abortion case, from the Chevron case, all these different cases where the court has ruled for the executive order voters in general, just beyond, without any historical analysis. It's much more like a brief versus a decision. A brief in
I'm John Kitover, Chicago mayoral candidate. I'm running in the February 23rd, 2027 election. I need your vote, and I need your signature. Petition now. Like this video, share this video. I'm on a podcast right now. We're talking about liberal progressivism, pluralism, Democrat radicals, bankrupting and stealing from Chicago and from America.
Or USAID and the State Department refusing to report to the State Department what they were doing. That was one of the things that he announced for that. Or whether it's the interest of inclusion, destroying women's sports by putting men in there who don't less devastate. These are all examples of dumb things that we do that destroy us. And we just want to reverse the tide of that. So what's fascinating to me is that what the people who were voting Republicans now would have been wrong Democrats 2 decades ago. We could only do it advocate for the Constitution. And I also
justice, writing for So I think this is really a trend that's so pronounced to me that it's really disappointing to see a court, whichever political opinion you are, whether it's conservative or liberal, you just don't want to see something, like Marsha, you were saying, I mean, Brennan's court was criticized by conservatives as being activists for advocating for, civil rights, women's rights, etc., etc. I think this court, in terms of the definition of being an activist court, is much more so. Look at how many cases have they overruled previous Supreme Court decisions, including the one we talked about yesterday.
The expansion of executive authority over independent agencies.
Exactly. And then the Chevron decision is just, there's 2 years under Trump. I think this court, hopefully the justices will wake up and then, Barrett, knowing that they are Supreme Court justices. They are independent. They don't have to really abide by a particular administration that appointed them. That's how the Constitution works. But, I'm not holding my breath for Alito and Thomas. Maybe the only hope is for them to retire and somebody else.
I wouldn't hold my breath for Alito or Thomas either. They seem to, I'm a big W fan. I think W made a mistake by putting Alito on the court, personally. Alito just seems to be a real disappointment as a justice.
Wait, Alito, who put him on court? It's
George W. George W. George W. Bush put him on the court.
Yeah, I don't know how that guy's looked on the radar.
That's what I'm saying. I like W. My family's been fans of W ever since he was governor. But, that was a huge mistake on his part. He never should have put Alito on the court.
Yeah, I don't know who was pushing for Alito at the time. Certainly W himself. That's how these things work. If a historian or a journalist could do some investigative reporting, just to uncover the whole almost gossipy story of how Alito came to the radar screen to be put in front of W's eyes, that would be very interesting. I kind of know a little bit. That is so different from Justice. The previous conservative justices, whether it's all the W's, the name of Scalia, for example. Who did he replace? Was this Scalia or is it Kennedy? Might have been Scalia, right? Or Alito. But anyway, it's just a completely different.
Gorsuch replaced Scalia.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't know about Alito. Maybe it was was it Justice RBG that died? No, I don't think so. I think it's later. Anyway.
RBG was replaced by Amy Cuddy Barrett.
anyway, it's just these I don't know who's to blame. Maybe it's the Democrats to when they initiated this. So I mean, it's like the anger thing, like with Robert Bork, you know, the whole litmus test. That planted a seed amongst a lot of conservatives that, oh my God, look at these ridiculous democratic liberal people that are attacking our qualified justice candidate like Borg. So we're gonna get back to them. So that sentiment has being pervasive for the past 30, 40 years, ever since the Borg, you know, the so-called Borg by during the nomination process. But anyway, I think Alito and Thomas, it would be interesting to see when they go, the next president, or even Trump, who can define. I'm just afraid he's going to be even a worse candidate. Maybe even, you know, that Florida judge, filing pattern. Maybe, you know, maybe someone like that. Maybe it's just gonna be someone like no gloves on.
I don't think she could get through confirmation. As much as the Republicans will give Trump what he wants, I doubt they'll give him Eileen Cannon. As I understand, she is not respected in any way, shape, or form by the judiciary.
Well, I'm just commenting on the other positions like Attorney General, or the FCC, DC, Federal Reserve. It's just Trump he can just pick anyone, any breed individuals, and then they'll sail through. And I mean, let's face it, what do the Democrats have to stop it? I haven't seen any. Even even in extreme cases, there's really not that much. I'm talking about pre-midterm election. This is why the election is so important, the midterm. I hope this is going to bring some balance into the system.
You and me both, Ben. We need balance badly. We're currently very unbalanced.
And remember, just to say this, remember there's a non-zero chance that Democrats will come back in power in some years, you know, from now. Maybe not next time. Maybe the 10th, and then they can do the same. And what I'm really, it's not so much of a political ideology thing. It's the whole government structure thing. It becomes like the Democrats will do whatever the stupid things that, you know, the extreme activist courts or executive orders of all the things that
it's a race to the bottom. Yeah, it's the race to the bottom.
Absolutely.
If one does it, the other side will have to do it. And there's no sense of like, there's just no sense of, hey, we really shouldn't do this, right? You know, we're gonna like, the example I give people is like, you can play the system, but you're not supposed to play it so hard to break it. We're now in a place where people think it's acceptable to play the system and break it.
Yeah.
And that's not good for
great. Executive branches are so active in terms of being mean, if you will, you know, arresting people with the ICE, getting rid of the law-abiding illegal aliens, you know, or being overtly racist policies. Yes, it's not that Congress is doing its job by, you know, passing these legislations, or not doing its job by just sleeping on it. However, to me, I think the one branch that can be changed to weaken the democracy in the U.S. is the courts, because the decision, the Constitution has set it up such that the federal judiciary, the court system, is supposed to be very limited in nature, which by definition, there's a lot of things they cannot do. They cannot pass tax laws. They cannot rule on, you know, the language that we should speak. They cannot, you know, whatever. But they have a very unique position to maintain this balance of preventing majority tyranny, as they have the opportunity to interpret what the Constitution means, not Congress, not the president. And I think that part is being weakened by these 9 people. This particular court, not 9 people, but by this particular court. And I think that would do the fastest and the deepest damage to American democracy in the shortest tremendous amount of time. Versus what the other two, it's kind of like a cancer. When you get cancer in the cancer in legislature, they're slower. But the courts, it's very quickly. You can see judges that are asking the plaintiff to come back because
same-sex orgasms.
And they got a middle finger raised at them. That to me is so bizarre. It is one thing that is so unique in the world political system. Very, very few countries can have this system where executives respect court decisions. Many other countries, the courts are already listening to the president, and that's not the case in our system. Well, thanks to Mr. Trump, we're getting there. Like many other, if not all the other, political systems, where the president can give middle finger to the courts. That is not a good thing to the American democracy, to be honest.
I think all of this arises out of the imbalance in Congress. The founders intended Congress to zealously and jealously protect their prerogatives, and they're not. They haven't over my lifetime. This isn't just a Trump problem. They haven't over my lifetime and probably over your lifetime have given up power to the executive because it's easier to let the president make the decisions than take hard votes. And it doesn't really help that when the leadership consolidated under Gingrich and the speakership, that it kept consolidating so that leaders would protect individuals from hard votes, right? And they onto the executive and onto the courts. And the courts, I don't think, were ever really meant to handle this kind of thing, right? They're supposed to make constitutional requirements. They're not supposed to be making hard decisions for the country. That's supposed to be the Congress itself. And
that's not wrong, Marshall, at all. But I just want to point out another angle that I sort of a little bit of emphasize when I 500 people. It's not one person that can make a decision quickly and pass law quickly. But beyond that, even if Congress were to do its job, I think our democracy is not that as long as there are people that believe very sort of seemingly rational thought that, hey, as long as our representatives are representing us, making decisions, then we're fine. I think the Constitution, its beauty lies in it provides more than just that, which is what I mentioned, the so-called majority and / on the outside would be protecting of minority rights. Now, very importantly, when I say majority and minority, I don't necessarily mean just race. I mean that the Constitution is meant to protect people that are actually in the minority of some things. It could be sexual orientation. It could be your political beliefs, your religion. It's not just the race thing. It's unfortunate to use the word majority minority the connotation is race. Not at all. In my statement of the majority.
No, I thought when you said minority, I thought you meant like a minority of opinion. Not like a minority of race.
Yeah. That is what I meant. You got that. So the courts, one of the rules is that in the Bill of Rights, there are certain minimums that the Constitution, the framers, out of the blue, they just said these are the things we consider as minimums, and they're kind of random, to be honest with you. Like gun rights, Second Amendment rights there, freedom of speech is there. Could there be other like my hair color? It could be. If the framers decided, we just want people to be able to maintain their hair color being blonde or black, that would be in the Constitution. That would be it that we have to adhere to. Obviously, religion. We're not going to have a religious, like, my religion is better than yours, therefore you suck, I don't. No, we're not going to have that country. I think these are what's provided. These are the so-called the protection for quote-unquote minority of people, not just race-wise, right? And then outside of that, Congress, President, you do whatever the hell you want. You could decide I don't know, tax rate being 20%. You can say, diplomacy-wise, launching wars. That's all your job, not mine. I don't have any rights to do that. But on these things, as written in the Constitution, courts say, hey, you guys listen to me, the third branch. And that's the part I think that keeps the country balanced away from many of the decisions that I've made in less than even 2 years.
Someone once told me you approach the United States, like the legal stuff in the United States, from a different position because you came from a country where it was either dictatorial or fascistic. I don't think I've ever asked you like where you came from before you came to the States. But like, did that person get it right? Like, you seem every time I talk to you like jealously guard this independence of the court in a way that few Americans seem to argue themselves or actually understand.
Right, Marshall, thanks. You're very perceptive. I think each come with their own biases. If you're from Texas, some are from Boston, I believe no one is absolutely neutral, objectively. We all have our upbringings and sensitivities and background. I lived in different parts of the world. I lived in Europe. I lived in China. And my parents, they're Chinese. They went through the Cultural Revolution, part of the Chinese in Chinese history. The one thing that Trump has been doing, it is very I'm sensitive to that, which is not sensitive to aware to a lot of sort of people who have not had that life experience, is that Trump is really going sort of adhering to some of the things that happened in the Cultural Revolution in terms of playing the ideological card, whether you stand for allegiance to Chairman Mao or not. If you're not loyal to Chairman Mao, they didn't care whether you're a scientist or a soldier or whatever. You get arrested or even killed. The political enemies will be, hey, if you're the governor of one province, and then if you're not good in the good grace of the central bureau, then you're out. So you're completely out. There's no due process. There's no courts that protect you. None. So, and the same thing like in Europe, the sense that we're all the same race, the same religion, Catholic or Protestant. We live in the same language. Therefore, that is what unites us under that. None of those political systems or societal systems have this particular constitution, and people that believe in the constitution of the three branches of the government. And for me, again, maybe this is due to my sensitivity, but I think the courts really play a very unique role in the American democracy. And by the way, it's not just, you don't have to be like me. I've lived in all these countries, personally. No, you review, as a political historian, you can review many different political structures, major civilization, India, China, Germany, whatever.
Yeah, when you start requiring loyalty over rules, the system gets degraded, in particular in republics. When loyalty is the primary thing, it's no longer about the rules everybody has to follow. Right? It becomes about who you're most wed to. And that is dangerous for our system. Very, very dangerous for our system.
Yeah. I mean, what Churchill said still makes sense. I mean, I'm not saying capitalism or democracy is just wonderful. Not at all. But there are a lot of problems with democracy, with capitalism, with it's like drugs, side effects. There's a lot of side effects. But what other systems are there? There's really not that many other systems. Churchill was mentioning political system, right? Communism, socialism, or whatever. But in terms of legal system or social, the system that we abide by to live as a society, there are unique advantages. This sort of so-called social capitalism or government-sponsored capitalism. Yeah, absolutely. But do we want to go back? Do the U.S. Electorate or liberals or conservatives
It sounds like you're saying that the situation is novel and new, and the new era, and it is uniquely out of control. What would you say to somebody that has observed the country for, I don't know, 50 years,